So that's what I'm saying. The text is like an object. It's gonna change perspective based on where you're standing. I don't know.
Hello?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I missed you, baby sweet. It was a day.
It was a day.
Please tell me you're seeing this too.
Welcome back to Drink in the Movies with Michael.
And Taylor.
This week we're going to be discussing Predator, The Predator,
Sex, Lies, and Videotape, Dressed to Kill,
A Simple Favor, and
Room 104.
Let's get to it.
As always, let's start with first impressions.
What did we get today?
Today we got Hellbent's Oktoberfest beer. Cheers.
How is it, Jen? Tell us.
It's beautiful. Once it hits your lips, it's so good.
What kind of beer?
Ooh. Yes.
That's good.
Fall has nearly arrived.
It's just about here. It's a little darker than some of the other ones we've had, and that just seems to fit with the change of the seasons.
And it's kind of caramely.
It's lovely.
Yeah, I think when this episode comes out, it will be fall.
That's right.
21st is around the corner.
Happy fall.
So what do we got in first impressions today?
We have two films that we will be viewing today. First, we're going to watch the trailer for First Man, the new film from Damien Chazelle. And then we'll check out the new film from Barry Jenkins, If Beale Street Could Talk.
Which one do you want to do first?
Let's do First Man first.
All right.
Your dad's going to the moon.
Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin.
We have a go for main engine start. T-10.
The entire world's watching.
9. 8.
Do you question whether the program's worth the cost?
7.
In money and in lives?
Do you think you're coming back?
All right. We just watched First Man. What do you think, Michael?
The first question I have for you is, how excited are you that this has Claire Foy in it?
That was the first thing. When I saw her face, I just lit up, and then I proceeded to have goosebumps as the sound built in and the stakes were built, and I saw Corey Stoll in there and Kyle Chandler, and it just looks like a great ensemble. But yeah, Claire Foy, good job on you.
Great cast. I like Ryan Gosling, but he's a little bit like I was about to say Timothée Chalamet, not Timothée Chalamet. He's a little bit like Armie Hammer to me, in that he's best when he's doing less talking instead of more talking. And I think this will be a less heavy on the dialogue kind of role for him. So I think this is another opportunity for him to shine. I liked him a little less in La La Land. I liked him a little more in something like Drive. So I think he looks like the right man for the role.
He sure does. One thing though, just you don't like it when he talks, or you don't like it when he has like kind of a role where all the stakes are put on him talking.
I think what I like most about him is his sort of physicality and his use of his body, and it has less to do with like his vocal delivery or sort of his like use of words specifically. So I think this is something where he can sort of put his strengths forward, which is great.
The reason I asked is because we're going to be talking about a Shane Black film later. And I think that his ability to use dialogue in The Nice Guys from Shane Black was great, but I think it's because it's comedic. So that's why I was wondering if maybe there's a difference in his abilities when we're talking about comedy versus when we're talking about drama, more serious things.
That's a great point, because I do kind of forget about some of his comedic roles. I did think he was kind of funny in The Big Short.
Yeah, hilarious. I really liked The Big Short.
So, yeah, you're right. That's a good point. I may caveat that it has something to do with maybe dramatic versus comedic performances.
Yeah,
it's a good call.
I think that Refn certainly uses him to his greatest abilities and just giving us kind of that third-person shadow.
Yeah.
Which it seems like Chazelle may have watched some Refn films and how he's depicting this.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
Claire Foy's in this, so pretty fucking excited.
Yeah, yeah. I think it looks great. The question that it really still hasn't answered for me is, like, why this story now? Like, I still am not sure what Chazelle might have to say about this particular historical event. I think it's an interesting choice. I mean, obviously it's a step up in scale, but I mean, you could take, you know, a film set in space in a lot of different directions. Why specifically he chose the moon landing now? I'm interested to see why he might have been interested in it.
So my perspective on Chazelle is entirely different. I don't think that his films really have more to say about something than they have something to communicate about how things feel. I think that Whiplash communicates how it feels to be a mentor or a mentee in this kind of abusive relationship that creates beautiful works of art. I think that La La Land plays into that similarly, but is also about how he feels about LA. And I think that this is going to be more about how he feels about cost, sacrifice to move forward as a species, and also about how he feels about space and our transition in as a species that is no longer just host to one planet. Yeah. I think it's more about feel with him than maybe...
theme, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would agree. It's a great way to put it. I'm excited to see it. Yeah. Very, very eager.
I'm starting to think that Claire Foy may be challenging herself in my personal awards for Best Role, because she's already, I think, leading, if Toni Collette isn't, for Unsane.
For just your favorite performance of the year?
From a female.
Yeah, gotcha.
And then she's probably going to compete with herself with The Girl in the Spider's Web.
That's right. She has a big year.
And then she could nab supporting with this role. Yeah. So I'm a little bit nervous about how Claire Foy heavy my personal awards are going to be at the end of the year. But she certainly won't be a wounded soldier, it looks like.
That's for sure. Yeah. She has been busy. And all for pretty productive reasons.
Mm-hmm. So should we get over to If Beale Street Could Talk?
Let's do it. Cheers.
I'm sorry, baby. I didn't mean none of that for you. I love you. You know that.
I do. And I understand what you're going through because I'm with you.
The things that tormented me the most were the very things that connected me with all the people who were alive.
All right, we just watched If Beale Street Could Talk. What do you think, Michael?
I absolutely love this trailer. It's just got that sensitivity that we felt in Moonlight. It just feels like you're literally feeling everything in this trailer, like the wet pavement, the cigarette smoke.
Just to cut in, it exudes it.
Yeah. I mean, this just feels like visual poetry in a way, right?
Yes. Yes. I felt the trailer. I didn't watch it.
Yeah. Yeah. The way the camera's moving so elegantly and just gliding from those faces.
It's a swoon.
It's great. Yeah. Yeah. A very tactile kind of feel to it.
With directors like this, I always wonder if they do some sort of a choreography type of pacing. Where like everything's planned out. Like you definitely get that sense from Chazelle's earlier Whiplash, kind of. That everything was edited and filmed with a certain choreography. And with a director like him, you know, Moonlight is so expansive. It works on so many levels that I just wonder how much comes naturally and how much is planned and meticulous with a director like this.
Yeah, that's a good question. And that's what's so weird is that they do feel so kind of big, but what we're seeing is so ordinary. Just people walking down the street, people in their kitchens, and yet it feels just like the universe is in those shots, right? Yes. They just feel much bigger than the sum of their parts.
And I haven't read this book in 9 years.
You have read it?
I remember almost nothing about it, but it feels like a James Baldwin piece. I've read quite a bit from him. You know, a fair amount of his books are things that you almost don't think could be adapted. Because it would need someone like a Barry Jenkins to communicate how it felt to be reading how a character was living. Yeah. And it seems like Barry is able to communicate how it feels to be a character living in this world. And I'm really excited at the prospect of him using that voice for femininity, like it seems like he's going to do. because there's a lot of beautiful feminine voice to Moonlight that I think is going to translate really well to this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Moonlight was really hyper specific on, it's the focus of a relationship and one man in particular. I mean, there are a lot of different bases we're seeing here. I mean, this looks like an ensemble. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait to get to know those characters, It kind of feels like you already do from that trailer alone, right?
And it's almost like they're not actors while they're in this movie.
Yeah.
They're the characters.
Yeah.
And that's really just something special.
Yeah.
Did you notice that Paperboy was in this trailer?
Who's Paperboy?
I think his full name, I believe, is Brian Tyree Hill, but he is the fellow from the Widows trailer who comes after Viola Davis saying, "You owe me money." But he is in Atlanta as Paperboy.
Got it.
The titular rapper who Donald Glover is managing.
Got
the
it.
Series.
Looks like he's got a strong supporting presence.
Yes.
In both. Another big year.
This is a heavy movie.
I know.
These two trailers just changed how I feel today.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's super exciting when you have movies just this diverse, going into a really busy fall season that I think are equally affecting, but working on very different scales, but are really just packed with feeling. So.
Yeah. And it's getting busier. Mm-hmm. Gaspar Noé still doesn't have a release date for Climax. They uncommitted from a fall release, meaning it could be winter now.
Oh, really?
So we're about to go through kind of a hectic October. I think that this is kind of the lull before the storm. Do you think we should let the listeners know where we're at with our best films on the year so far, like our top 10?
Ooh, you want to go through the whole top 10?
Yeah, I think just do a little recap so that people know where we're at right now before fall comes in and changes our entire list. Because we're at a point where we're 9 months into the year, and probably at least 6 out of the 10 films in our top 10 aren't going to be there anymore.
That's true.
So this is kind of a last chance to...
Are we waving goodbye to some of these, maybe?
I think we might be. I think I might have to finally wave goodbye to A Quiet Place.
Yeah.
I think that's what this fall lineup's looking like.
I think we can run through them.
Do you want to take turns from going in descending or ascending order?
Let's start with number 10.
Number 10?
Mm-hmm.
If yours already loaded, feel free to go first, because mine is still loading.
All right. You want to do these at a snappy pace, since we'll be doing it in detail towards the end of the year?
Yes.
All right. Yep. Number 10, a documentary. Won't You Be My Neighbor?
Ah.
This movie just about wrecked me in the theater. It stuck with me. I don't think it's going to be in the top 10, especially since it's at number 10, but I enjoyed it a great deal.
It's kind of a decider on my list about things that I really think are good and things that I think are good enough to be on my list at all.
Yeah.
My number 10 is Rooney Mara's Mary Magdalene with Joaquin Phoenix as Jesus.
There you go. My number 9, another documentary, Minding the Gap. Hulu original. We both liked it quite a bit.
Yep, I just moved it outside my top 10.
Aw, bye-bye.
It's at 12. My number 9 is Mission Impossible Fallout.
Nice. Love it. My number 8, The Rider. I was a bigger fan than you.
By a lot. My number 8, Emily Blunt's A Quiet Place.
There you go. My number 7, Annihilation. Another one we split on.
Yeah, it's not even on my top 10, or on my top list of the year.
Mm-hmm.
My number 7, a film you might like, Support the Girls.
Great movie. We'll get there. My number 6, Lean on Pete. One that I never expected to be anywhere near the top of this list, but there it is.
Charlie Plummer, great performance.
Yep.
Ethan Hawke's First Reformed is my number 6.
Still to come. Number 5, Thoroughbreds.
Yeah, it went outside my top 20, I think, now.
Ooh.
Unfortunately. My number 5, Jennifer Lawrence's Red Sparrow.
Very nice. Number 4, Support the Girls.
Ooh, I like it. Number 4, Unsane with Claire Foy.
Very nice. Number 3, this one's going to be painful for you. Isle of Dogs. Wes Anderson.
Yep, that's his worst film. My number 3 is Christian Bale in Hostiles.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I had forgotten about Hostiles. I think that could be a wounded soldier for you. It's one that,
yeah,
you know, could be at risk of like falling out of the conversation. Then you got to come back and champion.
It's a really unique thing because it had a. They were trying to get it nominated for awards last year,
yeah,
and it seems like it released on like the 29th of last year in super small theaters in major cities.
Yeah,
and then it went wide in like February.
Yeah,
it's a really weird case where you don't know what year it's in, and it came out this year for me, so this is where it's at.
Yeah, it maybe just slipped between the...
Much like a Keith Ulick, I'm just going to go with this is when it came out for me.
Just pick a year.
Deal with it.
Yeah. My number 2, Hereditary.
Ooh, my number 2, Hereditary.
Hey, look at that. That feels good. And my number 1, First Reformed.
My number 1, Steven Soderbergh's Mosaic.
There you have it. Some will remain, some will surely go.
Yeah, everything after number 7's definitely going to go, and probably number 7.
Yep. Lots yet to be seen.
Whew.
All right. First impressions, done.
We just got through 20 films.
We did. Do we need to take a break already? No.
We might, once these beers get a little bit lower.
There we go.
We got to give the people something to listen to.
Exactly. Should we go ahead and dive into our first feature?
Let's get into 1987's Predator.
That's right. Directed by John McTiernan, starring the one and only Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Knock, knock.
We are a rescue team, not assassins. Now, what are we gonna do?
Predator. The hunt begins.
Stick around. We could just do Arnold impressions instead.
Yeah, I think that people would really enjoy that because we are very good at articulating words.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. We both like this movie quite a bit, I think. We both gave it 4.5s.
Yeah, 4.5s with the heart. One of those movies that I kind of grew up watching continuously, but you know, when you're at that age, you don't really focus on the movie too much. You're kind of playing while you're watching it. So I didn't really retain any of it or understand any of it other than the thing got invisible and murdered shit, and that was cool.
Yeah, that's basically all I knew about it. I think I had seen chunks of it on TV, probably, growing up. Had probably seen it on the rack at Hollywood Video. Mm-hmm. But I am almost positive I never saw it from start to finish because I didn't remember anything about the narrative or what happens except for just certain images.
Yeah. For me at that age, you see very few things from start to finish because you have to be in a theater when you're that age to be kept still the entire time.
Yeah.
What really gripped me this time around was how they introduce Arnold with a cigar, and he just keeps mowing down on these cigars instead of talking. And when he finally does talk, it's these great one-liners, or it's this super trim, like, if you could get a cut of meat as lean as this dialogue, it would be the best fucking cut of meat in your goddamn life. It's just so good.
Yeah. I love that we get the exposition out of the way, like, right up front. Mm-hmm. Here's the problem. Here's why Arnold and team are here. And we're moving. Yep. We're going. We're in the jungle. Things are happening.
At the end, you get the payoff. Yeah. And there's no expository dialogue to continue building it up.
Yeah.
It's this is where we're at, and at the end, this is what was a lie.
Yeah.
And in between, there's just reckless mayhem, murder, cool brutality, and great one-liners.
Yeah. So maybe just to set the stage for anyone who hasn't seen Predator, you correct me if I misrepresent anything plot-wise. Arnold and the rest of his military rescue team arrive in what I think is an unnamed South American country with the intent to carry out a hostage rescue mission.
Yes.
Which they proceed in doing, only to realize on their way back from this rescue mission that something in the jungle is following them and intent on killing them.
Yeah, I think that a few things of note are they shot in the Mexican rainforest. I found it interesting. And then the other thing is while they're proceeding through the mission, I believe that they've already engaged and can no longer pull out. They come to find out that they are not the first people to try to extract this team, and then we find the dangling skinned bodies that do not have their heads pulled out to their spines to get the thing that we will talk about in The Predator.
Yeah, exactly.
Meaning they are not worthy adversaries.
Yeah. It's a pretty tight-knit group. I want to say that there are 4 to 6 guys at tops.
Yeah, I was going to say 5, 6, maybe including Carl Weathers.
Yeah, exactly.
Most notably, I Ain't Got Time to Bleed and Jesse the Body Ventura.
Yeah, exactly. Great lines. A lot of great kind of one-liners like that. Minimal plot, but also kind of minimal characterization. We aren't learning a great deal about any of these characters' backgrounds. We're just kind of with them in the jungle.
Yeah.
There's nothing being discussed or that's being focused on outside of the immediate problem at hand.
Yeah, and whether or not Arnold is going to light his next cigar.
Yeah, which he just might swallow. He looks like he could just chew it up. Not a problem.
How about that unassuming slow zoom in to the helicopter when all these great lumbering men get out, and you're like, I wonder where Arnold is. And then we slowly zoom into this shadow, and he's sitting there with his sunglasses and a cigar in his mouth, and he's lighting it. It's just this unassuming badassery. Yeah. It's that they're not making him into a Hulk Hogan figure.
Yeah.
That kind of makes it bigger and tougher and leaner.
Yeah. I'm kind of trying to, remember some other Arnold performances besides The Terminator. I don't think I've seen Arnold in that many movies.
I think
Total
The Last
Recall,
Action Hero,
or was
Total
it True
Recall,
Lies?
Eraser, True Lies. What's that movie that he was in that was my favorite when I was a kid? Shoot.
Jingle All the Way.
Yes.
Great movie.
I loved that movie when I was a kid.
I love that movie too.
I wanted that action figure so bad.
We will dedicate an entire podcast to that movie.
5 hours. Let's do it.
I can't really talk about Arnold as an actor in any larger sense, but I do think casting wise, I think it's just such a funny choice because his strength doesn't really end up being that valuable of an asset, right? This becomes a battle of wits ultimately.
Well, what's his name? It's not Mike D'Angelo. Who's there we go, Matt Singer.
Oh, gotcha.
Matt Singer is a noted Arnold Schwarzenegger lover.
That's right. I totally know that. Yeah.
He talks about him as a performer quite elegantly, and how Arnold, more than his directors, shapes his own genre. And he says the same thing about Sylvester Stallone, that there's these continuous themes, or there's a noted absence of the theme in his movies over and over and over. And I think that that's a very fascinating thing, that kind of the gravitational pull of someone like Schwarzenegger is, as a performer, is greater than an auteur's eye can affect him as a performer. He is just so weighted and changes everything around him in such a way that he really is one of those Marlon Brando movie stars when you look back on it and you think about what it means to watch a Schwarzenegger film. It really does mean something, and it exudes a feeling in you.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to me to compare a little bit of him to The Rock, because I'm not a particular fan of The Rock. I don't think The Rock sort of grounds all the frames that he's in the way Arnold does. It feels like every image in this movie that Arnold is in is sort of shaped around his figure.
Yes.
Right? Which is hilarious because, yes, his strength is, it's not the point of this, right?
Well, he's kind of at the height of his Mr. Olympian or Mr. Universe physique at this point.
He looks good.
His traps are basically thicker than my chest.
Yeah. He is a lean, mean machine. Yeah, it's not a movie that you want to chew on for its themes or
but it is fascinating to consider the themes.
What are you thinking?
Well, manipulation, lies and manipulation from the federal government, a soldier continuing to do his job even though he knows he was lied and manipulated, his famous words, "Get to the chopper," Choppa, are to someone who is his enemy.
Yeah.
And he keeps her alive. That he continues to fight this thing, even though he's on foreign soil and it's not really his problem. You know, there are these buried themes that I think this is what Matt Singer's talking about, that are continuous. You know, in Total Recall, in True Lies, in Eraser, I think he's got another thing like 6 days or 7 days or something where
yeah, that sounds familiar, but I don't remember the title.
He has a certain amount of time to figure out if he's an AI or like to find his body double or something.
Yeah.
It's just fascinating that there are themes.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of those movies where maybe we should try to identify them, because no one else is spending that energy, or very few people are. You know, what was the Predator in this original incarnation? You know, it's not based off of, that I'm aware, a artist's persona or identity the way that H.R. Geiger created the alien.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I know that in your review you take a stance that I do not agree with at all, and that you think the Predator is the superior monstrosity from space.
To me, it's much more interesting to me. Yeah.
And for me, I understand why you're there. I think I understand how framing and this as exposition gets you there.
Yeah.
But for me, knowing H.R. Geiger's background as an artist, and my just overall appreciation for his art separate from the films, and then starting with Prometheus, once again, that mythology really gets me. Noomi Rapace is one of my favorite actresses when she's used right. So it's, you know, it's just me going with my preference, and I think you going with your preference.
Yeah. So Alien's a franchise that I really haven't kept up with. I never saw Prometheus. I never saw Alien Covenant. So that's kind of just like a gap for me, and I think that mythology around that creature has certainly been built up. Probably rightly so. Like, I don't say built up like more than it deserves or anything like that.
Built up less than it deserves is how I put it, because the Prometheus sequels were canceled, and we got that shitty Alien Covenant movie last year with Danny McBride is one of the main characters, and James Franco gets killed off very quickly. You know, it's just not not too good.
Michael Fassbender's back, right?
Yes. Yeah, the continuation of that role is, I think, one of the best things happening kind of in cinema right now. But I don't know if it's going to continue. But what he brings is so unique. It's, you know, not to continuously compare Professor X to Magneto, but I think it's kind of like James McAvoy's Beast in the Shyamalan series, where what he's doing with his body and how he's working with filmmakers to manipulate his body to look like he's running like a dog, and just how masculine he comes off in what he's done with who was it that directed Shame and Hunger?
Stephen Queen?
Yeah. He was wasn't he one of the guys in there, or were both of those Magneto? Who is Michael Fassbender?
Oh, gotcha.
It's either Michael Fassbender or James McAvoy in those roles. Gotcha. So I think kind of what these two figures are bringing to cinema right now are as kind of depictions that we look at to explore themes and ideas are kind of at the pinnacle.
Yeah.
Much like Brad Pitt was in the early 2000s.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know people, you know, talk about Alien and Predator in the same vein because they converged, right? Which I don't think I ever saw. I don't think I ever saw those. If I did, I saw them in the theater, and I probably wasn't paying attention because I saw them with friends in junior high.
Antarctica and was terrible.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, I think like Predator and the original Alien are kind of operating on a similar scale, right? A relatively tight-knit crew, one creature that's tormenting the crew and that the crew is trying to kill. It's pretty straightforward. Alien, the crew is within one ship, and even though the jungle sounds like a bigger space, it actually feels kind of claustrophobic. Like, it doesn't feel like there's anywhere to run or hide, right?
No, and I think that's because of how effective that heat vision is.
Yeah.
Because we're almost shown this giant expanse, it seems like, and then we're shown this super scary heat vision.
Yeah.
That's zoomed in.
Yeah. With, little touches along, like, the sides of that thermal vision that, like, I don't know what that means, and I that's what I love about it, right?
Yeah, I don't want to know.
Exactly.
I just want it to
we'll
be
talk
there.
about that when we get to The Predator.
Yep.
But yeah, to me, it's just such a great combination of elements to sort of make up this creature, right? The technology with its sort of, like, animal-like reptilian or amphibian kind of qualities. The Rastafarian dreads, I noted that in my review. Like, it's just such a weird sort of
spider-like mandibles.
Yeah, it's just such a weird combination that, like, all kind of cohere and, like, make sense somehow. Yeah. Like, I just believe it. I somehow believe that thing is absolutely on the hunt and terrorizing these guys.
Shane Black agreed with you.
Mm-hmm.
And he explained it.
He explained it into the ground.
So one of the main things is like that glow-in-the-dark blood from Predator. It seems like a weakness to me, because if we're just going to compare creatures, the alien has acid blood, dude. You wound it, you die. You at least get hurt or injured, and if you stab it, say goodbye to those fingers.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the Predator bleeding, right, makes it feel more human-like.
Yeah.
And if it bleeds, it can die, or we
it's
can
a
kill
more
it.
human creature that's relying on tools and technology to survive, and that's why I think Alien is scarier, because it doesn't need what we need.
Yeah.
And I think that makes the Predator kind of more similar, because it's a bipedal creature that is using these tools, whereas Alien goes through these various stages of gestation and being an egg and a face hugger, and then taking over a bipedal creature and then bursting out of its chest and assuming its exoskeleton on the outside of the body. And it's just so sexual that it's scary. Yeah. And that just comes out of H.R. Geiger as an artist. In a way that just I find really intriguing to think about. I just continue. Sometimes I'll just take time to think about H.R. Geiger as an artist. And that's just more, that's not really a fair comparison maybe between the Predator and the Alien if you're just going to compare the two. But I just have more love and appreciation that I've spent on H.R. Geiger as an artist and his creation of the Aliens.
Yeah. I mean, it's not really a worthwhile debate, because I love both creatures, right? It was just a comparison that I couldn't help but make.
Well, it's a debate we're having.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I love about the Alien that you don't get with the Predator is that you can almost hear what it feels like. You hear its sort of like sliminess and its gooiness. The sound design in Alien is what I really remember. I remember who's the guy from Paris, Texas, who's also in
Harry
that movie?
Dean Stanton.
Harry Dean Stanton. When he's off looking for the cat, walking alone throughout the ship, and he picks up the wet, skin that's fallen off the alien, you get that tactile sense through sound.
Yes.
There isn't as much, I think, going on there in Predator. It's all visual. You get some gunfire, but there's sort of like a well-rounded use of cinematic elements to give you a sense of what the alien is actually like.
Yeah. I think that maybe the absence of sound is what's so intriguing about the Predator, though. That it is silent, that it is swift. That you hear the trees rustle from its weight, but you don't hear it scrape against the tree.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cat-like.
Yeah, it's so nimble up there. And that was terrifying, right? It's crazy. Like, you can talk about how far technology has come, but, like, to me, this came out in 1987. I still find this very effective.
Oh, my God. Okay, so it looks better than the Predator, right?
Oh, totally. 100%.
The explosions are roughly 9 billion times better.
They're great.
They don't look CG at all. They just look fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I think this was like an $18 million budget or something in 1987.
Yeah.
And I think all of it went into those explosions in Arnold's paycheck, so that he could afford enough food to keep tacking on that muscle.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, I cannot imagine that any of the effects with the Predator itself cost that much.
Well, it's got an $88 million budget.
Oh, I mean, the Predator, the creature in the 87 Predator, not the new Predator.
In the film Predator, not
Correct.
the film The Predator.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. Just completely agreeing that, like, I think you're right. Most of that money probably goes to the hostage scene where they actually attack this guerrilla camp.
We might have to do, like, a sub-episode where we just have fun with some sci-fi. Just go over some blind spots.
You haven't really done any sci-fi.
'Cause have you done Predators?
No, I haven't.
I really want to watch Predators right now because the Predator was such a letdown, and I think that you might find it gripping, and it might be your favorite, like, Adrian Brody performance, which you would not expect it to be in an action film, but it very well could be. Throw that in with Prometheus and maybe identify a few more sci-fi films.
That could be fun.
We might have a little sci-fi theme if we so choose.
That would be fun. Yeah, I haven't listened to it yet, but I think I saw on Twitter that Josh Larson actually prefers Predators to Predator.
Yeah, he's just like me.
You agree? You like that one even better?
I don't know now because I haven't seen Predator. When I saw Predators, I thought that it was amazing, and I thought that there's no way that the other ones could have beat it because I'd seen AVP more recently. Mm-hmm. But now that I've seen Predator recently, I really do wonder, because I liked Predator so much that it's a legitimate thing that I'm wondering, you know, because it's, to me, in the back of my head, it's a 4.5.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's tempting to me just to give it the extra half star. Like, I kind of just want to give it the 5 because I had that much fun with it.
I think that if it doesn't degrade in quality when 2020 rolls around, I'll bump it up to a 5 because it'll be over 20 years, you know.
Yeah.
Right now it's already over 20 years, but this is my first revisit.
Yeah.
So I think you just kind of
gotta get there.
Gotta give it time and space. A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I don't know if Fantasia would have been a perfect 5 if I was alive right when it came out.
Yeah.
But the distance of time and how it's aging. I think that part of why Predator's so good is how well it's aging.
Yeah.
Like, those explosions, seem tactile. Like, I could feel them. They seem to affect the area. They seem to change people's skin. When people were shot, it was very believable that they were shot and dying, or that Jesse the Body Ventura did not, in fact, have time to bleed, but he did, in fact, need to dodge out of the way of the falling hillside. Yeah. It seemed like those dangling dead bodies that were skinned were really dangling, bloody, dead bodies that were skinned, and that the tracker really was startled by them. Like, everything was so believable, and
he's a great character.
So lean, and just, you'd feel it.
Yeah. I feel like the direction that action movies have taken is just bigger and larger in stakes. I just love the scale of this movie. One bad guy, a small group of people that shrinks over the course of the movie.
Dwindling.
Yeah. And it ultimately becomes a duel, a one-on-one fight, and the stakes
the trap is really faint.
Yeah. The stakes don't need to be large in the script to feel like they're large, you know? Yeah, I mean, well, we'll talk a little bit more about this when we get to The Predator, but it's a fun movie.
Should we just kind of highlight who the folks kind of behind the main parts are? Director, writer, cinematographer?
Yeah. Want to go for it?
So it's directed by John McTiernan, who made a film I really liked with Antonio Banderas called The 13th Warrior.
Never saw that one.
But he's also known for The Hunt for Red October, Die Hard 1 and 2, and The Last Action Hero, another Arnold film.
Yeah, that one I haven't seen. Written by Jin and John Thomas of Alien vs. Predator, Predator 2, as well as Executive Decision, which I have not seen. I haven't even heard of that one.
What's his name? Kate Hudson's stepdad.
I know that.
You know, Kurt something or other, mustache. Roadhouse.
Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
That him?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's a Kurt Russell movie.
Cinematographer is Donald McAlpine of Moulin Rouge, Ender's Game, Anger Management, Mrs. Doubtfire, Romeo and Juliet, Patriot Games, Clear and Present Danger. He's got some Jack Ryan movies under his belt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm trying to remember any particular cinematographic flourishes that I really liked. I don't know that anything's coming to mind, but I think that the camera just does what it needs to do.
Yeah, I think it's an absence of flourish.
Yeah.
It's gritty.
Yeah. He really lets the characters sort of fill out the frame. Lets lets these practical effects kind of do the work, and lets the camera sort of just do what it needs to do.
And the most useful practical effect is Arnold's body. I think we all agree.
Yes. His biceps.
Yep. Smear some mud on them. They're invisible.
Mm-hmm.
Bullshit.
Yep. Shall we move on to the latest entry in the franchise?
Navigate to The Predator.
Why are you here? I don't think you believe me. Come on, man. I had a run-in with a space alien.
This fucking guy is crazier than the rest of us.
Absolutely terrible film directed by Shane Black. One of my favorite films recently is a film by him called The Nice Guys with Ryan Gosling. And this is just a piece of trash. Plain and simple.
Pretty bad movie.
Shane Black was also a small character who wore glasses in the previous film. So, leading up to this movie, I thought it was a nice idea. And then I began to understand that Olivia Munn was going to be a main character.
Mm-hmm.
And that someone named Boyd Holbrook was also going to be a main character. And I really wondered who was making these choices, how these choices were being made, and who the fuck would greenlight something with Olivia Munn and Boyd Holbrook as the leads. Name one movie that was successful critically that Olivia Munn was a lead in.
Ooh, that's...
You cannot.
Tough. That's tough.
That is a fact. There has not been a critically successful film that she was the lead character in.
Yeah. Not off to a good start.
No, this is a fucking terrible movie. It only gets worse.
Yeah. Boyd Holbrook, I thought, maybe had potential. He was the bad guy in Logan, right? Which a lot of people loved.
Yeah, I think that if he is good, it's not when he is asked to do what we were talking about earlier with Armie Hammer and Ryan Gosling. Yeah. It's not when he's talking and attempting to communicate this expository dialogue.
Yeah.
I think he could have been good if they didn't need to continuously tell us exposition.
Yeah.
Another huge problem with this movie is I don't even remember them now, but I counted 6 continuity errors while I was watching it.
Yeah, not good.
And I'm aware that they cut a huge scene out where Olivia Munn's like arrested by the police and gets rescued because Shane Black had hired someone who had a sexual offense charge at some point in the past. So we're missing what feels like 45 minutes probably from the film.
Yeah.
But we're missing a huge scene where they had been arrested.
Yeah.
By the cops in this town.
Yeah.
We get none of that, but we do get the fellow from Moonlight showing up in a cop car.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere. He's just in a cop car now.
Yeah.
It's just the whole movie just falls apart. It's all CG. It's all bullshit. The only things that feel real are Sterling K. Brown and Keegan-Michael Key for me.
Yeah.
Because, Keegan-Michael Key, I just always love his persona and his comedic timing and behavior.
Yeah.
No matter how preposterous the character is, it always feels like it's part of a Key and Peele sketch, so I'm kind of grounded. I don't think other people were, but for me, he really worked. And then Sterling K. Brown feels like he's straight out of Predator.
He's really trying here.
Dude, he's working his ass off.
He's like, come on, guys, let's
Why
do this.
is no one else doing their job?
Yeah, it's painful. Yeah, kind of along that same vein of sort of seeing the seams and how this is put together. I think I also read that they, after early previews were not good, went back and reshot the ending. After the spaceship crashes towards the end, and Boyd Holbrook kind of has this 1-to-1 duel, with the Predator. That was all reshot months later, after initial production had finished.
The part where Olivia Munn turns invisible or whatever?
Yeah, I think she was invisible. You know, Boyd Holbrook, Trevante Rhodes, they all jump on the spaceship and they take it down. And then all of a sudden we're kind of in the jungle.
Well, Trevante Rhodes jumps into the engine.
Yeah.
And then the kid that made the unicorn, the foil unicorn, gets his legs cut off and slides off the shield, and then Boyd Holbrook makes it like inside or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he conveniently latches onto the grate. You know, it's just
Yeah, I don't know, you know, where the reshoot started, but the article I read was describing that scene as having been tacked on months later.
I'm going to challenge you. Compliment this movie.
I actually think pacing wise it was fine. I mean, I think there have been harder sits for me this year. I didn't like anything that it was doing, but at least it was just kind of moving along, pace wise.
But it was still too long, right?
Oh, it's absolutely too long. I mean, it's a full 2 hours, I think, right?
We don't need that. It's too long.
Yeah. There is plenty to hate on in this movie, so I don't feel the need to pick the youngest member of the cast and target him. So I won't even go there. But I do think you could just take his character out entirely. That is just so unnecessary. I don't think this movie benefits at all from that character or his relationship.
No, that's why I was asking who you think's making these casting choices. Because it seems like it's someone using a fucking formula.
Yeah.
Like, oh, if we get Jacob Tremblay from The Room, then we're going to get this audience. And if we get Yvonne Strahovski, then we're going to get the Handmaid's Tale audience. And if we get Olivia Munn, we're going to get the G4 horny teenager audience.
Yeah.
If we get Boyd Holbrook, then no one's going to judge him. And if we get Keegan-Michael Key, we'll get this audience. And if we get Thomas Jane, we'll get the audience that remembers how good the original 2004, I think, Punisher was.
Yeah.
And if we get this guy, then... And if we get this guy, and if we get Sterling K. Brown, then we'll have the people from This Is Us.
Yeah.
You know, it's just... The whole thing sucks.
Yeah.
It feels like it was made by an algorithm. Like, I don't feel Shane Black's voice coming through at all. And that's what's weird is The Nice Guys is such a narrow, focused thing similar to the Predator, or Predator, rather. There's a fly.
Fruit flies.
Attacking me. So The Nice Guys is really grounded. It's kind of, there's a girl missing, classic noir.
Yeah.
Figure out who she is, where she is, how she is, whether or not she was in the sex video, right?
Yeah.
This is just normal noir, hardcore 1970s feeling. What's his name again? Paul Schrader. Paul Schrader type of a screenplay.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of a slapstick comedy, really grounded. Any action has a reaction. Any shot or amount of pain has clear consequences. And this is none of that. It's super broad, super huge. It seems like nothing has any consequence, right? They attack federal officers. She shoots herself in the foot. It falls apart. It fell apart when it started.
Yeah.
I leaned over and I said some one-liners to you at the beginning. And to be honest, those are my favorite parts of the movie. When I was talking to you and I was laughing.
Yeah, I mean,
my own jokes.
It wasn't even 2 minutes into the film and we both kind of looked at each other and were like, uh-oh.
Yep.
This isn't going to be good.
We each slumped over to either side of our reclining chair.
Yeah.
Nestled our chin into our palm and attempted to keep it lifted for 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, which is hard. Like, within 2 minutes of the movie, I was not excited about what I was seeing. You know, we're looking at the Predator immediately in its spaceship as it's coming to Earth.
Which is exactly how Predator opens. So
that's
at that
okay.
point, I was like, awesome. What an homage. And then from then on, no.
Yeah, that was okay. And then we kind of go in the spaceship and we're looking at it already. I was kind of trying to recalibrate my expectations and think like, okay, like this might be just ditching the formulaic suspense approach and trying to just give us a steadier dose of excitement. That's not what I want, but I gotta like try to meet it on its own terms.
Yep.
And then it's really the only movie this year that made me want to kind of just plug my ears and go la 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 la, because it kept telling me things I didn't want to know. Everything that was mysterious about this creature that made it so kind of disconcerting, he tries to explain away, from why it's human-like to what the dreads are for to why they're on Earth. Wait, they explain
what the dreads are for?
They don't explain it in great detail, but she goes, I think that's how it's sensing heat. And I'm like,
really?
Don't even comment on it. Just let it be.
I think I was I was just in a different frame of mind.
Yeah.
That went right over me.
Yeah, she says, some character goes, what do you think the dreads are for? And she goes, I think they're heat receptors or sensory
is that like on
receptors.
The bus, maybe? Yeah.
I don't remember when
the bus got so busy that I was just trying to like focus on performances and see if I could find redeeming qualities. So I started tuning out dialogue and focus. Because I think that Thomas Jane wasn't bad in his role. I just think that that's a fucking terrible screenplay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, it's bad. Yeah, just this steady deluge of answers to questions that I didn't want it answered. Just felt like it was spoiling the fun. I'm like, this is not of interest to me.
But you understand why they're doing it.
Yeah, totally. Like
threw
in a way,
$88 million
it's like,
at it, and they want a film franchise.
Yeah. In hindsight, it's like, why didn't I expect this? Why did I even have my hopes up? This makes total sense.
I don't think I expected it because I don't think of Shane Black as that director. Other than Iron Man 3, when he was very clearly asked by a huge studio to come in and make a serviceable entry and a long-running series, so that he could go on to do his own projects. You know, you think about Shane Black, you think about Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I think about The Nice Guys. Or you think about him as a screenwriter, perhaps.
Yeah, Lethal Weapon. That's what a lot of people like, right?
I didn't expect that. I thought we were going to get kind of, more of what Thomas Jane and Keegan-Michael Key had just between two leads. I thought it was going to, take the entire cast, boil it down to two characters, and that banter that those two had, that's what I thought we were going to get. I thought we were going to get that same Ryan Gosling, Russell Crowe banter from The Nice Guys. That pain was going to happen, that they were going to shrug it off and laugh and smile about it and continue gunning down or chasing or doing whatever the plot was asking. I didn't think we were going to get this huge franchise that was going to huge franchise attempt that was going to go from one side of the country to the other, to a different country and back with force fields and terrible CG explosions, terrible CG blood, terrible CG everything. So many side characters, you couldn't count them all. Random dogs for grounding or something. A bad performance out of Yvonne Strahovski somehow. She's really not a bad actress, but when you ask her to have basically 3 minutes on camera.
Who did she play?
And only do exposition. She plays the estranged wife of Boyd Holbrook.
Oh, yeah.
Jacob Tremblay's mother. You're just not doing her any favors. She kind of needs to be living in the world already. She can't be asked to define the world.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that one of the Alien versus Predator movies was set in Antarctica.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was trying to think about
or something.
Yeah, I was trying to think about what would I want for a sequel to the original Predator. I might want something really similar in scale, really singularly focused on sort of the suspense and action, but just kind of transposed into a different environment with just a different texture, different kind of environmental problems. So that idea that sounds okay. It doesn't sound like it was a very good movie, right? I don't know that the crossover was needed.
But I hear what you're saying, and for me, I'm kind of similar. Did you ever see a movie called 30 Days of Night?
Yeah, vampire movie?
I think that you do 30 Days of Night with Predator.
Yeah.
In that Alaskan, it's always daytime.
Yeah.
You can't hide. All these buildings are made out of really thin material. There's this huge dark factory that's kind of looming.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect environment because you can't run anywhere. And if you do, you're against ice. So the heat vision works really well. You're against really cold water, so you can't go that way. So you can either hide in these buildings and fight, or run and die.
Yeah.
I think that's very much the way that they should have gone.
Yeah, there would just be all kinds of directions you could take it. You could, focus on the temperature, the light. Just like in the jungle, there are these little touches like that scorpion, indicating that like they can't just stay out here forever. Like the jungle is a harsh environment.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is equally a problem that they need to get out of here.
Other than the tracker, he wouldn't die because he's cutting.
He knows what he's doing. He's gonna be fine no matter what. He only dies because he wants to die.
Exactly. So my question is: earlier you brought up a comparison of Arnold to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Oh yeah.
Do you think that instead of Boyd Holbrook, if Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was the lead character, or I'll change it up, if Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson or Jason Statham were the lead character, do you think it's a better movie?
Oh God, that's hard. I do think I would have enjoyed watching Jason Statham go through some of these actions.
I would too.
Yeah, I would. I would put him first in line. I don't know that The Rock would do a whole lot for me here. I mean,
I think some of the attempted emotional communication of father to son that was attempted is much better from Dwayne than it is from, or would be much better from Dwayne than from Boyd. Because I think Dwayne is able to just sell things in a way that very few actors are able to sell something that really is bullshit. Yeah. Like he really can just smile.
Smile his way out of it.
Deliver this line, flex these pecs, and just get you going.
Yeah. Yeah, that Jacob Tremblay character. I mean, he's autistic, right? He's supposed to be this brainiac kid.
He's the evolution of humans.
Mm-hmm. We get the soldiers with PTSD. These all feel like sort of conspicuous traits that like the movie's not really like engaging with. No. They all just feel kind of like indicators of like significance or something. Or
it feels like an hour and 15 minutes is missing.
Yeah. You just feel like,
and I don't want to watch that version of it. It's just that's how it feels.
No. 2 hours was plenty. It's more than enough.
Too long. Yes.
So yeah, like I said, like the only thing that kind of kept me going was that like it did get me laughing on a handful of occasions. Like thank God for Keegan-Michael Key.
Yep.
He had me laughing from time to time, and at
Sterling's
least,
commitment.
Yeah, he was
he
giving
had a
it
Sterling
his all.
Commitment.
Yeah, and it just kind of moved along at a brisk enough clip that I was kind of hanging in there. But I have zero desire to revisit it. I would not recommend it to anybody.
No, I would actually recommend you take however much a ticket costs.
Yeah.
You light it on fire. That's
be about the same as
a better paced and more entertaining way to spend that amount of time watching your movie.
Much more efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Olivia Munn, do you have any comments you want to make?
I agree with you. She's not great, but like in a way, like I don't even find it like that exciting to think about who I would have rather.
Oh no, it's a terrible role,
right? It's just
but
like
this is a script.
You,
I'd rather have Emily Blunt play that role. I'd rather have Claire Foy play that role. I'd rather have Jennifer Lawrence play that role. Yeah. I'd rather have Cate Blanchett in that role. I'd rather see Saoirse Ronan.
Yeah.
On and on and on.
Yeah, it's like
but it's still going to be a wasted role.
Yeah, any of these women could have done it better, but it would still just be bad.
Yeah, it's a terribly written role.
Yeah, it's the screenwriter and director's job to make sure all these people doing their hard work is in service of something good. Mm-hmm. There's nothing more frustrating than when you feel like a performance is really working and the rest of the movie is not. You're like, please, like, let this be for something. So that's why it's kind of hard for me to like put all the burden on any one person when it just feels like so much is not working.
Mm-hmm. So one thing that I think did really work, which is very challenging, is I think the cinematographer did a great job for what he was asked to do. And it's not his fault what they did to his images after he shot them.
Yeah.
That cinematographer is Larry Fong.
Mm-hmm.
He worked on Batman vs. Superman, Kong Skull Island, Zack Snyder's huge film, Watchmen, his other big one, 300, Super 8, as well as Snyder's other film, Sucker Punch, and then a kind of a smaller, really well-earning film from Warner Brothers, Now You See Me.
Yeah, that one I didn't see. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was
Pun
really...
intended.
Ah, there you go. Yeah, I don't think it was really a problem with how a lot of this action was shot. It was sort of just what the director chose to put in front of the camera. Less so with what the camera
I think he tried really hard, though.
Yeah.
Like, almost... It felt like he was trying too hard, but I think that's more on everyone after him gets a hold of it and assembles it and how it's edited. Yeah. Some of the ways that he shows the dog being introduced, or the alien dogs, because he's shooting something that's not really there.
Yeah.
So I think just the way that he's doing that, or how he's following the cars or shooting those bus scenes that are really cramped.
Yeah.
He's doing it at bare minimum a serviceable job, but I thought it was a pretty good job. His what he's doing when they're on the spaceship trying to cling on, and how he's trying to make you feel like they're actually dangling.
Yeah, I was always able to follow the action, right? Yeah. Sometimes you're just disoriented. You're like, I don't even know like where these people are in relation to each other, because like it's moving so quickly or something.
It wasn't disorienting. Yeah. It just fucking sucked. And I think that's more on CG. I think that's more on super over expository dialogue going to so many different locations.
Yeah. Yeah. We already talked a little bit about how in the original, what was so affecting was, how the predator was moving through the trees, right?
Which
nimbly.
Is its highlight in this one.
Yeah. God, I remember one scene in particular just after the predator escaped from the facility, and it's like charging down a ramp like a wide receiver heading for the touchdown zone, and it just looked ridiculous.
It's end zone, but okay.
There it is.
You also go with the red zone, whatever you want to call it.
Whatever you want to call it.
Don't call it the touchdown
zone. God, I just lost all of our football listeners. It just looked ridiculous. It just looked so clunky. It's just like that guy is in a suit that doesn't fit well.
Mm-hmm. His arms are kind of like up at his chin level.
Yeah,
and he's running like with his arms parallel to his chin. It made no fucking sense. Somehow Olivia Munn was running faster than him and able to catch up to him. It's just it just sucks. It's just a bad movie, and you gave it the wrong rating.
Yeah, I know. I gave it the 2 just because I don't know why. Like, it's weird. I felt like it had me laughing enough that I was like I feel a little phony hating on it when it got me laughing.
More than
you. Yeah, you did.
But a 2-hour that's like if a 45-minute comedy special only got you to laugh as many times as you laughed in 2 hours of The Predator, you wouldn't give it a good review.
Yeah.
So if something's more than double that, and its genre isn't even comedy, that's not a good enough excuse.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I was trying to think about the person who never saw The Predator, who hasn't seen it in 20 years, and is just coming in a little bit more with a blank slate than I was, and is maybe a little bit more willing to just meet this movie on its own terms and kind of get on its sort of wavelength about self-awareness and pace.
What did you give the Avengers Infinity War film?
I give that a 2 as well.
I thought you gave it a 1.5, so that defeats the purpose of my comment. But I think that something like Avengers Infinity War reaches to the older audience and the younger audience equally, is just as shiny, has much better special effects, more grounding, more impact for hits. I know that you complained about how you don't really know when a punch is a punch, but I think in this movie it's a lot harder to tell. Because within the Stargazer facility, before he exits, that small predator is able to just use his index finger's nail to rip people's faces off.
Yeah.
When we get outside the facility and he has his head crushed by the larger predator, whatever it's called, hunter predator maybe.
Yeah.
That hunter predator has a billion chances to kill all our characters with just a nail. If he just would have reached out with his nail to touch those characters, and he had many opportunities, they would have instantly died.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen. So for me, it's just continuity error, and believable. Like there's no there's a huge lack of believability, and whether or not he really wants to do these actions.
Yeah.
And why someone's alive at any given point in time, or how they got in a cop car, or why are they here, or why did any of this have to happen this way?
Yeah. Yeah, I did give this the same score as Avengers Infinity War, 2 stars for both. But I think I would pretty confidently say that I think Avengers is the better movie. I just kind of, my passion for both ended up kind of being about the same, just for completely different reasons, right? I just saw The Predator, the original, loved it. This was a major letdown. Avengers Infinity War, I can kind of see the appeal, but I can't connect with it at all because I haven't seen it. So for me, it's a 2. Like, I can't get excited about it. So it's kind of a weird comparison. Yeah. The Predator, not recommended by this podcast.
No, avoid it at all costs. Burn your money.
Yeah.
Also, there's a film called A Simple Favor out. They would love to have you as an audience. There's another film out called White Boy Rick. They would also love to have you. So go spend your money on those.
Yeah, we're recommending that one. I haven't seen. We haven't even seen it yet.
No, it's definitely better than this movie, though.
Hopefully we don't have to retract that statement.
There's no way it's worse.
I think that's safe.
It's got Matthew McConaughey. It's good for 2.5.
Should be a safe bet.
Bruce Stern, it's up to a 3 already.
We're good.
So we're going to go to Sex, Lies, and Videotape, a film by Steven Soderbergh, directed and written by. I think that we are going to take a brief break and refill our Oktoberfest from Hellbent, though.
Glass number 2.
What kind of personal project?
Personal project like anyone else's personal project. Mine's just a little more personal, I guess.
Is this how you get off or something? Taping women talking about their sexual experiences?
Yes.
Would anyone else see the tape?
Absolutely not. Nobody else sees the tapes except for me.
How do we start?
And we are back with Steven Soderbergh's Sex, Lies, and Videotape, written and directed by him. Cinematography by Walt Lloyd, who also teamed up with him for a film with Jeremy Irons called Kafka. Big film that I've never seen, featuring Robert Downey Jr. in Shortcuts. And a film I've never heard of or seen called Pump Up the Volume.
That's right. Soderbergh's debut film.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of an interesting one, cinema history perspective, because it was such a big film from the kind of 90s independent cinema movement.
This kind of joined with Tarantino, Rodriguez, and Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
And they're kind of the 4 golden boys at this point in time.
Yeah.
Between Clerks, Sex, Lies, Videotape, Reservoir Dogs, and El Mariachi. Is that the first film from Rodriguez?
I don't think I've seen that one, but yeah.
Oh, we will fit that in. Don't you worry. When Alita Battle Angel comes,
there you go.
I will make you watch that. We'll get some Spy Kids in.
Ooh,
and we can watch some Machete.
Spy Kids. Haven't seen that one in a long time.
I love Spy Kids, dude.
Yeah. Infamously beat Do the Right Thing at Cannes for the Palme d'Or. I just kind of recently remembered that when I was on the Wikipedia page. Yeah.
I don't think that it deserves that.
I agree. Great movie. But that is a
Right
competitive
Thing,
festival.
Do the Right Thing is a very special film. And I think that as time goes on, maybe that's what makes it better. I don't think Sex, Lies, and Videotape is getting better with age.
Yeah.
I don't think it's decaying either. But I do think Do the Right Thing is one of those rare films that gets better with age.
Yeah. That seems to only become somehow more relevant and more affecting.
Similar to Fantasia. Again.
Yeah. I also think about this one as, the film that kind of put Sundance on the map as, the festival for distributors to turn to. There was a book I read a couple years ago called Down and Dirty Pictures. Have you ever heard of that one? It's kind of about, I think the full title is Down and Dirty Pictures, the story of Sundance, Miramax, and
I have heard
90s
of that.
independent cinema, something like that.
I have heard of that. Through back channels on like Twitter or something, or maybe like a Kevin Smith podcast, Fat Man and Batman or something.
It has, it has its critics for sure, because I think some people think it's too gossipy, it's a little bit too singular in kind of like its perspective. A lot of focus on kind of, the men of that period. A lot of directors that it leaves out. But it talks a lot about sexualizing videotape, and it kind of being the first example of what the Weinsteins could do, right? Getting one of these independent movies to cross over to the mainstream.
Mm-hmm. What they did with Lord of the Rings was very unprecedented at that time.
Yeah. But yeah, the movie itself, I absolutely love this movie.
Mm-hmm. I think we should just take a beat here and say we are entirely against Harvey Weinstein.
Correct.
And that's all we have to say on that.
Anti-Weinstein, 100%.
All right.
Pro sexualizing videotape.
Absolutely. You know me as Soder Boy.
That's correct.
This film does not at all take away from my Soder Boyness. It doesn't really increase it. It's just like, yeah, he's had it all along. What's new?
Yeah.
It was more fascinating to see his evolution, I guess.
Yeah.
This certainly made me think about some of the similarities to Unsane and how he is using a wholly original representation to tell a story. Right? He's using videotapes to communicate the story and to move along at the climax. That's how the transition takes place in what's his name from the OC? Peter Gallagher?
Oh yeah, Peter Gallagher.
Yeah.
Plays the sleaze bag.
Yeah, that's he's communicated into this transition by the videotapes. And I think that's a very interesting foil or way of deriving a screenplay. It's almost like that's the idea you have first, then you figure out how you get there.
Yeah, fill in the rest as you go.
Yeah, I loved it. And once again, we get to see Margaret Qualley's mother.
That's right, Andie MacDowell.
You agree this time.
I do. We're on the same page at this point. Yeah. I just really connect with all these characters. Like, they all just feel so fully realized. I never feel like I'm seeing the actors. I feel like I'm seeing the characters from start to finish. We talked about Andie MacDowell when we watched Love After Love earlier this year. I also watched Groundhog Day for the first time earlier this month.
I saw that you watched that for the first time, which I thought was really, really funny that it wasn't logged as a rewatch. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I'd never seen it. So, she's an actress that until this year, like, I don't think I even could have told you her name had I seen her picture. I really like Andie MacDowell, apparently.
No, she's really good. Let me just digress for a second.
Yeah.
Happy Death Day or Groundhog Day?
Groundhog Day.
Okay.
Yeah. You?
Same. I wondered for someone that hadn't seen it first, perhaps.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No, Bill Murray is Bill Murray.
Absolutely.
That is just a fact. Movies with Bill Murray are often better. The exception is Isle of Dogs.
Ooh.
Fact.
We're just going to need to revisit that movie.
Not fiction. Not Stranger Than Fiction either.
I loved her here. I was disarmed by her. I felt like every line that came out of her mouth I believed.
It's this weird exuding of sexuality and sexiness that she doesn't want to be sexy, or she doesn't feel comfortable being sexy. She questions her own sexuality. She's talking about not having an orgasm, and she asks James Spader at one point if he would give her one, and it's really intimate, but it's also really innocent.
Yeah.
The way that she goes, "Oh yeah, I'm just being silly," plays really well into A Simple Favor, which we'll get to after this.
Yeah.
But when she finds that earring, you feel for her. It's just a special movie that I think is from an innocent filmmaker that hasn't been scorned yet, or been burned by the industry, or been fucked with on a budget. It just feels very innocent and very first time, and it's something that's kind of irreplicable.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting for me is I grew up with this movie. I would watch it as little kids watch things, which is barely. Like it would just be on. My dad had gotten it from we basically got a bunch of VHSs from the pawn shop. We just always accumulate them. And at some point he got this, And so I remember parts of it, but I don't really remember it. Yeah. And I remember it being on, but, you know, the things that I would the only thing that could really get me to sit down is, like, Indiana Jones.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
little more
E.T.
action.
maybe, Cocoon from Ron Howard. Things that are really emotionally gripping to a child.
Yeah.
I was just astounded that something like this could have such a broad audience at that point in time.
Yeah, yeah. It is fascinating to think about. If this came out now, would this still have the crossover appeal that it achieved?
Yeah. Did either of your parents watch this?
I don't think so. I've never talked to my parents about this movie. I've never heard them mention it. I kind of doubt they've seen it. It's possible. I think both my parents would like this movie, though. Because these characters feel so rich. I mean, I think it is just something about
it's a weirdly approachable movie, kind of for... I think it's just adults. I don't know that there's an age gap to it. Yeah. Maybe, you know, over 70, just because people at that point in time might be a little bit more restrictive about expressions of sexuality.
Yeah.
Which is understandable in how they grew up. But I think that just kind of that younger generation, just before them and down to us, it just works on that wavelength.
Yeah, just, you know, a pretty simple narrative. In a way, I think it has become even, you know, more relevant if you're kind of just focused on the idea about, you know, a character achieving or seeking intimacy through a screen. Like, well, that feels as resonant now as ever.
Yeah, yes, it does.
Like, it seems weirdly forward-thinking, actually, to have been released in 1989. The dynamics between the characters, they just feel really... fully realized. James Spader, you know, when he's looking at these women, if you read this description of the character, it would sound so creepy, and, you know, I could see how someone might get that, but to me there's also, like, just this genuine curiosity when he's listening to Andie MacDowell talk about her, you know, sexual experience and her sort of desires and nerves, that to me is really moving. Like you just see in his eyes how badly, like, he kind of wants to understand people and connect with them.
No, I think him and Andie are very similar as characters. You know, they're in separate veins because Andie's with the boy still that she fell in love with, but he's estranged from the woman that he fell in love with.
Yeah. And
now he's behaving as if he's married, and attempting to reconcile his problems, and Andie's attempting to reconcile her problems. I believe that she's at a therapist.
Yeah.
Right? This will come back in Dress to Kill as well, but she is attempting to solve these problems. Yeah. So they're each attempting, and what's interesting is the estrangement of the male characters.
Yeah.
The closeness of the female characters.
Yeah.
And then how they swap.
Yeah.
How Andie and James Spader become close, and how Peter Gallagher and what do you know what that girl Linda? No, it's not Linda Cardellini.
Something Giancomo. I looked this up because I knew we would talk about her, and I forgot.
Fool! I looked it up too, and I also forgot.
Laura San Giacomo.
Yes, and this was her biggest role until Just Shoot Me with David Spade in the mid-90s, which was a great television show.
Yeah.
So they swap and become her and Peter Gallagher become closer as characters, but they don't become closer together as people.
Yeah.
And I think that James Spader and Andie MacDowell become more defined, separate identities of characters, but become more intimate.
Yeah.
And I think that's I don't know that he knew what he was doing when he made it, but I think that it's a fascinating thing to watch develop on a screen and in a story.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the scene with her, Laura San Giacomo, after she goes over to James Spader's house to record with him, and then, you know, immediately after that has, like, the best sex of her life with Peter Gallagher. It's like what got her going more than anything was just talking.
Yes.
Right? Just being with this guy.
Yeah.
Showing
when
an
she's
interest in her.
all sweaty and we get that close up and of her ecstasy.
Yeah. Up until then, you think that all of this excitement in their relationship has come from maybe the secrecy of it or just the intensity of it, but what ends up, sort of exciting her most is just a conversation with somebody who's
talking
listening
about her
to
sexuality and being heard.
Yeah. Great scene. When James Spader and Andie MacDowell are, going out to lunch together at first, and that's when he tells her that he's impotent, and she's, kind of withdrawn and uncomfortable, but she's also, kind of like playing with her wine glass. It's really sexual, but like without her even knowing it.
Mm-hmm.
Just a great, physical touch that's just drawing your eye throughout
it's
the whole sequence.
Yeah.
Just a lot of really simple moments that are really outsized in their impact for what they are. It's great stuff.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I mean, we could talk about things I like about it all day. I don't really have any criticism for it.
Yeah.
It's a perfect 5 for me with the heart.
Yeah.
You gave it a perfect 5 as well?
I did.
Heart? No heart?
I did give it the heart.
Okay.
I could see people... I think I've seen some people think that the ending was a little too tidy.
What was the ending?
James Spader and Andie MacDowell ending up together, kind of like they do, on the front porch of what looks like a new house, perhaps. To me, it's a quibble. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. It just doesn't bother me much.
How do you want it to end?
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
So, perfect 5 from both of us. I think is this the first perfect 5 from both of us since we started the podcast?
It might be. I wouldn't be surprised that Soderbergh's the first one to get us there, though.
I love it.
And just ask Soderboy.
Yep.
Simple favor.
Let's do it.
I'll warn you, you go poking around in her past, you're gonna find something that is terrifying. She was not a normal person like you or me. I've never seen such a beautiful girl want to be so invisible.
I smell her, Sean. I smell her perfume like a ghost.
Yeah, it's just you being paranoid.
I saw my mom. She told me to say hi to Stephanie.
Let's get to A Simple Favor with Paul Feig, Blake Lively, Anna Kendrick, Henry Golding.
Absolutely. New release, in case people haven't seen it, just a simple plot description. Anna Kendrick plays a single mother who is She is that. She is also a video blogger, also known as a vlogger, who...
We might need to get in that game soon.
It's very... Yeah, we can get into vlogging.
We could. Those 8F film reviews, they might be coming sooner than we want.
Yeah. Who befriends Blake Lively's character, the mother of another boy at her son's school, who goes missing.
Is she going by Emily?
That's right.
And then she's really called Hope is that correct? And there's also Faith and Grace?
That's a good question. I don't remember which name she actually had.
I think she's Hope because I think that the other one is Faith.
Yeah.
And then I think Grace is the heart on the flame tattoo. Oh, shit. Yeah, fuck. So it's not Grace, it's Charity.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay, yeah.
Key detail, man.
Key. We should have read the book.
Yeah.
I loved this movie. I had such a good time. I did a double feature. I saw The Predator first, and then I saw this. And when I bought my ticket, I was the only person that had one.
Wow.
And when I got in there, it was like 3/4 full for this 10 p.m. showing on a Thursday night.
It's awesome.
It was great. Everyone was laughing or holding back laughs at lines like brotherfucker. Some of the scenes with the mother were getting oohs and ahs, or the shotgun-toting stepfather.
Yeah.
We're getting people writhing in their seats and squirming. It was just a great crowd pleaser.
Yeah. The house I saw it in was pretty packed as well. People were loving it. People were laughing. People were gasping. Everyone seemed to be having a good time, and I did as well. Lots of twists and turns, most of which I didn't really see coming. I thought it went a little slack kind of in the third quarter.
A lot of people think that. I didn't think that. I thought that we were getting kind of our comeuppance. We needed to experience that. Yeah.
Not a huge deal. I think it ends on a peak. on a high note. I think it does cross the finish line on a strong note.
Prius, silent but deadly.
Great. Oh, I was laughing. Everybody was laughing as Blake Lively's crawling towards Anna Kendrick, or crawling towards the guy, I guess. Super funny. I really like Anna Kendrick in this movie. I don't think this is like a real change of pace for her. I think this is just a character that she can do super well.
Yes.
And I had a lot of fun with it. I like the style of the film, that French pop music. I think sort of just oozes with the sexuality that we're getting from all these other, things in the narrative itself. Henry Golding, I'm still not quite sold on. I liked him a little better here than I think I did in Crazy Rich Asians. But, one thing that I had a little bit of trouble with, and this was really just kind of distracting for me, was trying to imagine him as this writing professor that he is said to be.
Yeah,
to me, this
I read
happens.
That in your review, I think.
Yeah. This happens sometimes with certain characters. Their behavior is fine, how they kind of carry themselves is fine, but then we're told that they have these certain traits or things that they do that I just can't quite picture, and that kind of distracts.
No, I get it. Henry Golding was a lot better here for me as a character, but if we're going to talk about who this character is in this world, I absolutely agree. Total bullshit. Just like Constance Wu. Not a chance in the world that she's a game theory teacher at whatever university that was in Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah.
That's its weakness, though.
Yeah.
The real world stakes. But when these characters are interacting with each other,
it's great.
And they're just those characters.
Yeah.
It just oozes sexy and magnetism and compatibility and tension and pleasure and leisure, and just I loved it. I had such a great time.
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna have a hard time staying awake. I got in there and was like, all right, we're staying up till over after midnight, Taylor.
Yep.
We're gonna get going. And from that first intro, I was like, oh, this is gonna be better than Searching.
Oh yeah.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. By a long shot.
But like that opening vlog where they show us the desktop sequence of her talking into the thing, I was like, oh, this is why Searching sucked.
Yeah. Super great use of that. That was all really fun. Man, some of the costumes here, like some of what Blake Lively's wearing, I think is ridiculous, and I love it.
Oh, it's so
so over the top
because it's so sexy. This girl in a suit with this like pocket watch. And
she looks like she should be running the Monopoly game or something.
But it's like it's just hot.
Yeah,
and that the dresses that she has, especially that dress at the end, it like challenges almost my view on sexuality because I did find it so beautiful. But it was so startling to her previous outfits that it does kind of address how fashion is a depiction of masculinity or femininity, which I thought was interesting to tie into McQueen earlier this year.
Yeah. I've seen some people say that the kind of tonal shifts didn't work for him. To me, I thought it worked fine. Like
when did the tone shift?
In a way, and maybe it's more like these kind of different tones being felt simultaneously, right?
It's sexy murderous comedy.
Yeah, like some people, I think, were maybe just surprised by it, right? Like, I don't think many people knew a lot about this film going into it, right? The trailer was kind of elusive, like, about the plot.
Well, based on the trailer, I was like, dude, this is going to be the same fucking plot as Gemini. It's going to suck.
Yeah.
I was
we talked
so
about
happy
that.
to be wrong.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be the same exact plot as Gemini. It's fairly similar, but it has some startling differences that were, and it was so well paced and so fun that it didn't matter. Paul Feig had last made Ghostbusters Answer the Call, which received a bunch of unfair backlash from people that were angry that it was recast with women, which wasn't my complaint with the film at all. I just thought the film was poor. And
it's not a good movie.
Chris Hemsworth was kind of the funniest role because he was asked to do the least and had the most to do. But this is back on track. I really liked his Melissa McCarthy films in The Heat and Spy.
Two I haven't seen.
And this is back on track for me with that comedy. It's not the Bridesmaids ecstasy super high point that is just a perfect film that is ageless almost. Yeah. But it's really it's really in between the Heat, Spy, and that. It's sexy, it's funny, it's quick, it's clever. I want to rewatch it. I just always want to rewatch it. It's like The Nice Guys. It's like the female version of The Nice Guys almost. I would love to watch this and then watch The Nice Guys and then watch this and then watch The Nice Guys and then watch this and then watch The Nice Guys and just put me on repeat saying that over and over, and that's what I want to do.
Yeah, to live in a world where we just got kind of a steady output of R-rated adult movies like this is a world that I kind of want to live in. But right? This feels so unusual and like just such a surprise, and like it kind of sucks that it's such a surprise. Like, why can't we just get more like original screenplays like this that are kind of as stylish and as playful and adult as they are, or as it is?
Because I think it's a gamble.
Yeah, I
think it's a really big gamble. You know, these comedies, you have to play into kind of a racist formula, or like a sensist formula almost, where you're like, who am I playing into? We're gonna get the Black or African American community. Yeah. Okay. Well then, yeah, we'll greenlight Uncle Drew, but you only have this budget and you have to get NBA stars. Yeah. Okay, you want to make a comedy? Well, you have to cast Tiffany Haddish as the female. Yeah. Because if you don't, we're not going to greenlight it. Oh, you're going to get Kevin Hart? Yeah, we'll greenlight your project. Yeah, Melissa McCarthy, we're not going to do that unless you get, another major actor. Yeah. I think comedies are really hard to get a budget for because there's not a good financial turnaround commitment. Yeah. And when there is a good turnaround, everyone starts trying to hit the same button. And I think that something like Gary Sanchez Productions has had maybe the most consistent turnout of just good comedies. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're sort of a financier and all you have to go on is what's worked before, then, it's tempting to just repeat what has worked before.
And what's interesting is how kind of segregationist their basis for what to greenlight becomes. Yeah. Okay, we're casting this person, well then we're targeting this audience. Yeah. It's really weird how that works. And I think A Simple Favor kind of doesn't do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not that I have a lot to say about this, but I think this was a super diverse cast, actually. I mean, I know our three leads are white, but otherwise, like, I feel like the cop was African American, the teacher was Middle Eastern. Say that again?
2 leads are white.
Oh, yeah, sorry. You're right. Henry Golding's, I think he's from Singapore, right? Or maybe
he's got a British accent, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, this felt super diverse to me. Yeah. And it benefited from that. Yeah. But not in a self-conscious way, like in a supernatural way. Yeah. It was great.
Like it felt like how I want America to feel.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt absolutely. Great. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really hard to be sort of as funny and as seductive as this movie is, and I think it totally pulls it off. Mm-hmm. I was as pulled in as I was, amused by it. Yeah, I don't have that many complaints. I mean,
what do you have to complain about?
It's a good question. I mean, kind of like I said, I think there is sort of this third quarter stretch where the plot mechanics are kind of kicking in, and we're getting some of those flashbacks.
Give me a beginning and an ending point for this.
I think it's when we start getting some of those flashbacks to the camp scene with Blake Lively meeting up with her twin.
The two twins, gotcha.
Yeah.
And when does that end?
Probably like just before they all kind of have, all three of them have their meetup in Blake Lively and Henry Golding's house. Okay. And they're kind of having that little set piece.
So for me, all of that worked because I wanted to know what happened.
Yeah.
So the flashbacks worked because I was like, show me the money.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in a way, like, it's kind of funny to think about one kind of noir. If we call this kind of noir-ish, obviously it's very bright, it's very playful, it's very funny. But it's noir-ish. Yeah,
it's a psychosexual noir with a great, modern American twist.
Yeah. And if anybody has had beef with noir, it's that sometimes like the plot kind of gets in the way, right? Mm-hmm. It's that like all the double crossing or sort of like plot mechanics that kick in,
or it's too male centric.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. All that can kind of kick in and sort of distract from the atmosphere in a way like, well, that's exactly what this movie does. So it's kind of following that formula. Mm-hmm. So if you just kind of lean into that and just take it for what it is, then it's not a problem.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, it's tricky. I don't know that I'd point to anything in particular. I just think that there's maybe a version out there that maybe was even maybe a little bit more violent, that just could have been even funnier than it was. I mean, not every joke landed for me, even though I was laughing quite a bit.
What jokes didn't work?
Some of Anna Kendrick's sort of mannerisms. It's hard. I mean, I really liked her performance, but not every joke landed. I mean, I don't know what sort of that ratio is, but that is something that kind of plays into the rating of a comedy for me.
Yeah.
What that kind of ratio is
of
I'm jokes
finding
working
it
to not
fascinating,
landing.
though, because we have the same rating, but like the reason I didn't give it a perfect score, or the reason I give it a 4 is because I felt like it never absolutely soared. But I don't really have any problems with it. Like my biggest problems are I wanted to spend more time with those side characters.
Which ones?
The parents.
Oh yeah, they're funny.
Yeah.
Great addition.
But like that's it. I can't really put words to why it's not perfect, but I just know that it's not perfect. But I don't have any of these problems. I think that some of Anna Kendrick's comedy doesn't make me guffaw, but it kind of goes from goofy to hilarious. That's my scale with her. Like, oh, that's cute and goofy, to holy shit, I'm laughing so hard, this is hilarious.
Yeah.
But it never goes beneath, oh, that's goofy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's the kind of movie that might just age super well and kind of age into one of those higher scores. I mean, sometimes you just kind of have to let it
This might be
sit.
Wounded Soldier.
Totally. I don't think it's, like, gotten rave reviews. Like, I think on Metacritic, I think it's in, like, the 50 to 60 range, something like that.
It, we were the highest reviewers.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what other people are
Support
seeing.
the girls. Go see A Simple Favor.
Word. I'm not sure what... I haven't read any other reviews in detail that were critical of it. So now I do kind of want to go back and see what
this is one of the
problems
ones that
were.
I'm probably going to want to spend the most time reading criticism for.
Yeah.
Weird, like this is just one of those movies that I'd love to read about the criticism for it.
Yeah.
Especially from someone like Tasha Robinson, maybe.
Ah, yeah. She liked it.
Did she
funny,
like it?
Yeah, which I haven't listened to.
No criticism?
Isn't that funny? I haven't listened to it yet. But
I'd love to read her criticism of this movie.
That's hilarious. I was listening to their podcast, and it's at the end of their podcast where they go around and talk about like one movie they saw recently that they liked, and she says, "I'm going to talk about a movie called A Simple Favor," and I was like, and I paused it because I didn't want to know anything yet. So,
but you know that she liked it.
That was her recommendation.
God damn it.
I know.
Because when she doesn't like things, it's fascinating. Because her perspective on why she doesn't like something is something I almost never arrive at. I think the closest similarity we ever had was something like Ready Player One. I always understand where she's coming from, but I never arrive to those conclusions before I've heard her out.
Yeah.
So this would be one that I'd really love to have her give a scathing review for, because I'm sure like whatever David Ehrlich has to say about this is not going to be intuitive or fascinating or original.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, not to just hate on Henry Golding, but, if there was something that I thought could have maybe just taken this up a bit, it was maybe somebody else instead of him.
Who?
Ah, gosh, I knew you were going to ask me that, and I don't know that I have anybody in mind.
I
but
have one.
Who do you got?
John Cho.
Oh, yeah, that's a great choice. I can totally see that. Choice? Get it?
Choice. Let's get to White Castle, dude.
Yeah, there were just, in addition to, sort of that trait he has, or, or the characteristic of him being, this struggling writer or whatever that I had trouble buying. Additionally, I just felt like there were a couple of times when I felt like I was feeling the acting and not the character. And it's usually when it tries to shift a little bit into that more serious mode. Like when they're at the funeral for Blake Lively's character, and the boys are fighting outside.
Yeah. No,
and he gets kind of worked up.
I know what you're talking about. And to me, you're saying that you're seeing him act.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, it took me out of it.
I agree, but I disagree with your take on it. I think you were supposed to see him acting, and that was part of the narrative of the film, that he was acting that way. So that you were supposed to go, is he in on this? Is she not dead? Or is he not in on this? I think it has that, for me, it had that subtext where I was, when he would act in that way, I would go, oh, he's in on it. Or I would go, is he in on it? It's playing into that, for me, at least.
That's fair. I'd have to kind of revisit that scene and see if when he tries to kind of like turn up the intensity a little bit, if I can kind of see it from that angle instead. That might work.
That's how I took it in.
Yeah.
I was, 20 hours into my day at that point. So.
There you go. Yeah.
I may have been wrong, but Delirious Taylor took it that way.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, not a huge deal. Still super positive on it. I think you mentioned that you could see this maybe sneaking into a best adapted screenplay category.
Yes, I did.
I could see that. Just depending on how the field shapes up. I don't know that there are that many other like great adapted screenplays. That will absolutely be towards the top.
I think it'll be the winner.
Yeah.
I'll just call it right now. I think that'll be the winner.
Yeah. I feel like it's already usually somewhat of a limited field anyways.
It is fairly narrow. I think there's a lot more this year that I need to spend some time thinking about, but who's going to be able to offer legitimate competition in the field at this point? I don't think that either of us had a adapted screenplay in our top 10.
I don't think so. Not that I can recall.
Yeah, so it's going to be tough sledding for anyone to try to compete with if Beale Street could talk.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Mary Queen of Scots is going to be adapted off of a book.
Yeah.
So that could be a nomination, but that'll just be something that they put on the cover. It will never be seriously considered for that award with the competition, I don't think.
Yeah, you can have dark horses, I think, in that category. Like last year, not that it wasn't, a bad film. I didn't particularly like it, but I think Logan snuck into that category, which people weren't expecting.
You didn't like Logan?
I did not really like Logan. New podcast. I was scared to say that because I know you like Logan, but we'll get there.
It's all right. I'm going to skin him alive and hang him from a tree, people.
Gonna sink those Wolverine claws in.
I'm gonna put Shane on repeat in front of your eyes.
I know. It's a Western. It's an Ozu film. I don't know. I don't know that I buy any of that.
Did you watch The Wolverine?
I don't know that I did, actually. I don't think so.
Yeah.
So, could be a problem.
Do you like Hugh Jackman?
So I'm neutral.
You didn't say yes, so you don't like him. Okay.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Most people do. So if you don't like him, then I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Most people do like him.
Yeah. I think I fall in the Sam Van Halgren camp on Logan, where the more realistic you try to make some of these superhero movies, the more ridiculous the endeavor ultimately becomes. I'd have to go back and kind of flesh out some of his opinions, but I remember reading some of what he wrote, and I'd be like, yeah, this is kind of how I felt about this movie. I gave it a 2 or a 2.5, something like that. I didn't feel much for it. But we digress. Not to just state my opinion and then be like, but that's it.
I'll light him on fire once the mic is turned off.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts on A Simple Favor?
I think that the reason that you are able to word your thoughts about Logan are because you finished your beer before me, so you're just loaded right now.
I'm ahead.
You're just you just don't know what you're saying.
I'm winning the beer race.
A Simple Favor, I think it plays to an adult audience in a way that films often don't nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's beautiful. I think it's well paced. I think Blake Lively has this exuding chemistry with the camera that also works on all the characters that she interacts with. I think that she brings a sultry level of sexuality to every encounter that she has, whether or not it's her with the audience or her with herself or her with Anna Kendrick or Henry Golding. I do think that one moment where her and Anna Kendrick make out is just steamy, to use another S word.
Yes.
Did you want to help me come up with other S words? I think that you had said that you wanted to come up with other S words to describe this film.
I know. As soon as I started writing my review, I think like the first word I was going to use was to be like a really slick, and I was like, oh, there we go. I already got another one.
Yeah.
Start with chic instead, just to change it up.
Oh yeah, another S word. So let's get to my review. So I opened up saying it was smart, sultry, sexy, scintillating, and every other S word I didn't list. That means I had a good time. So you had
all the great S words.
Chic, slick.
Slick was the first one that came to mind. We got other S's. Sensual.
Ooh, I love it.
Simmering.
Shrek? No, that doesn't fit.
No. I don't know. Leave us a comment.
Does not fit.
No.
Yeah. Let us know what S words you think describe A Simple Favor.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps it's a simple film.
There it is.
Found it.
So 2 thumbs up for A Simple Favor.
2 thumbs up. Great chemistry, great cast, super fun, super funny, crowd pleaser. I think it's probably one that you could enjoy with your parents if you're younger.
Yeah.
The first thing I did when I had a chance, I think it was the day after, or I guess it was the day of because I finished it technically after midnight. But yesterday I called my mom and I was like, Mom, that A Simple Favor movie that I told you might not like, I was totally wrong, Mom. You gotta go see it. You're gonna love it.
Yeah. A relatively tame R rating, right?
It says nudity, graphic nudity, but I think that's just the painting.
I agree. I think that is sort of...
There's a little bit of a nip slip for Blake Lively at one point in her tux, but that was... be looking in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. In a way, like, it would not have been easy for this to have gotten a PG-13 rating had they just cut out some of the vulgar dialogue.
Yeah,
but I think that actually
with the violence
helped.
And the sexuality.
Yeah. 100% glad they went for the R rating. That would have been a mistake.
And I don't know that they went for the R rating. I'm just glad they didn't compromise on the visual.
Yeah, exactly. Cutting some of that out, I think, really would have detracted from the sexuality of it. So, great movie.
Fantastic. Should we get to Dress to Kill from Brian De Palma?
That's right. Moving backwards in time a little bit.
Do you find me attractive?
Of course.
Would you want to sleep with me?
Yes.
Then why don't you?
Because I love my wife, and it isn't worth jeopardizing my marriage.
You won't see me anymore, so I'm going to have a little session with your machine. Oh, I borrowed your razor, and... well, you'll read all about it.
And we're back, continuing with a discussion of Brian De Palma's 1980 film, Dress to Kill. I really like this film. I gave it 4 stars and a heart. You were a little more lukewarm on it.
There are certain moments that I absolutely was gripped by, loved, intrigued, enthralled. I just gave it a 3. I think that the plot did not work for me at all. I knew that Michael Caine was the villain in the first scene. And unfortunately, spending all that time pretending that it's not him really detracted from my experience. I think maybe Mike D'Angelo put this to words really eloquently when he said that for every great step Brian De Palma makes forward visually, he has a hit you over the head, stupid, obvious bit of imagery as well. And that's best depicted after her sexual experience at the hotel, where she's rifling through the drawer, and we pick up a sheet that says venereal disease confirmed, basically, which completely detracted from my amazing experience of her in that museum and waking up with that unique clock and trying to locate her jewelry and find her clothing and seeing her face as she found herself again, because she was finding herself, and that was very interesting, how she was finding herself as this mature sexual woman, and it was all detracted by this moment of vulgarity. And I don't think that you shouldn't have that moment of vulgarity. I just think that it's kind of hitting you over the head with it, and that detracted from my experience personally.
Yeah, I think I found it more humorous, that bit in particular, at least, than you did.
I didn't find it to be a comedy.
Yeah, I mean, to me, if something like Blowout is imitating Hitchcock just to imitate it, I don't think it's really commenting on some of the Hitchcockian flourishes like Dressed to Kill is. Some of these I find a little more playful, a little more interesting in what he's kind of
I guess
commenting
I
on.
take that back, because when she gets slashed in the elevator, it was almost hilarious.
Yeah. To me, I mean, it's kind of this bit of misdirection, because it ultimately doesn't matter. She dies anyways. It just undercuts what has been this sort of kind of absurd afternoon of her having this game of cat and mouse with a guy that suddenly ends with reality kicking in. To me, that is sort of a subversion of sort of this classic, more romantic kind of mode that it was otherwise kind of working in. And then when she gets in the elevator, I actually really like the shot of her looking at the little girl, and the little girl staring back at her, and her sort of looking like she feels like the girl can see what she just read or something like that, you know? When you're feeling embarrassed, when you're feeling shame about something, and you feel like people can see what it is that you're embarrassed about. To me, there was some sharp editing there in the elevator, only to have it pivot and not matter.
Can we stay there for a second?
Yeah.
I interpreted that scene entirely differently. There's an earlier scene at the museum where she is the one staring at a little girl and witnessing the little girl's truth instead of what the little girl says. She sees both, but she's the only one that witnesses the little girl's actions. And I was interpreting it as a reversal of that.
I can't remember. I mean, the little girl's kind of having like a tussle with her mom, right?
So the mom and either the husband or a man who is of interest to the mother are looking at the map.
Yeah.
Which she will later revisit. And she's tugging on her mom's sleeve, asking her to go. Can I go? Can I go? And she says, "Be quiet. Hold on," basically. And then stay still or something. And then she takes a step, becomes still, takes a step, becomes still, takes a step, becomes still, takes it, and then starts running off. And the only person witnessing it is her.
Yeah.
And I viewed it as kind of a reversal of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
where she's doing something that she said she wouldn't do.
Yeah. Totally fair interpretation. I wouldn't argue against that at all. I mean,
but
to me,
I was gripped by that experience as well.
Yeah.
Different experience, but I did find that particularly moving.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one thing I knew about this movie before watching it was, this museum sequence, right? Because people...
I didn't know about it beforehand.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's my favorite part.
Yeah. I mean, people talk about the tracking shots in it, which are great, but I also just like the cuts between, her sitting on the bench, her looking at something like the painting, then the other people, and then the cuts back to the painting. And to me, those are cuts that sort of equal the sum is greater than the parts, because when you see the painting, see her looking at something, and then go return to the painting, you look at the painting differently, right? It's as if the paintings are seeing what she's also seeing, and it's this kind of fun way to
you're bringing the baggage of the scene with you back to the painting every time.
Yeah, like the painting
so it becomes
is a voyeur,
her kind of behaving as a whore as she continues to chase this man. Then when she's running away from him, it reverses. because she's returning to this room where it's nude women. She's returning to this nude feminine room constantly in this art museum. What films did the museum scene make you think of?
Vertigo, for sure. James Stewart walking in and seeing Kim Novak sitting on the bench looking at a painting, of a woman, right? In this case, we're with the woman on the bench. I do think that's kind of a fun shift in perspective. That's what came to mind. Did something else come to mind for you?
Yes. Film from this year that now I'm blanking on the name of because I'm just there. But that Joaquin Phoenix movie?
The Joaquin Phoenix movie from this year. The Gus Van Sant one?
No.
What else was he in this year?
The one that we went to go see together? The Hammer? Ball-ping Hammer?
You Were Never Really Here.
It made me think of You Were Never Really Here in the finale.
Yeah.
And how he chases the young girl. In that final scene, he traverses the grounds after his mother is taken away from him.
Yeah.
He gives her a burial, returns to the light, resurfaces, and goes to rescue her. And then we kind of enter this point in time where we don't know what's reality. But there's these beautiful depictions of art and femininity all around this manse.
Yeah.
And it really made me think of that. I almost wondered if something like this influenced that.
Yeah, that's cool. That movie, I think, is at the top of my list of ones that I need to revisit before the end of the year, before I make any further finalizations to my list.
Lucky for me, I have revisited it.
I know.
And it's not on my
it didn't
list.
change. Yeah.
It changed.
That's a cool connection. Yeah.
Changed to... It's still outside. It's outside the writer, which means it's outside it.
Yeah.
It's outside Gemini.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I will definitely think of Dress to Kill now when I do revisit it.
Please do.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked the museum sequence. I liked, just kind of how playful some of these homages were. They were drawn out to an extent that they become sort of absurd and call attention to what you are doing watching these things, which I don't think Hitchcock movies do. I think Hitchcock is very... these movies are very involving, but he's very much pulling the strings. And in a way, I think if there's any criticism of Hitchcock, it's that he is sort of the man behind the scenes pulling the strings of these icy blondes and putting us in the perspective of a voyeur. Brian De Palma's calling attention to us as the voyeur, which I think Hitchcock is just concerned with putting us there and not as much calling attention to it.
I think that's why he's the best that's ever been.
Yeah. But I think,
that's okay.
To me, it's a different way of engaging with these preceding films that's different from Blowout, that feels more like pastiche, which isn't bad. It's just, it's imitating just to imitate. Whereas this is more of a comment on some of these Hitchcockian techniques, which emphasize how they're not just engaging, they're also a little silly. And I find that insightful in a very straightforward visual fashion. This is not didactic or any way.
For me, Hitchcock is the greatest that's ever been, and for the foreseeable future that ever will be. I love a lot of other directors, but to draw a more modern comparison, barely, if someone were to criticize Martin Scorsese by making films like him that were commenting on his style, I wouldn't find them better. And that's, I think, where I'm at with Brian De Palma.
Yeah.
Just because you're noticing a flaw in a storytelling technique and representing it doesn't make it better than it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't mean to
because you didn't come up with the theme to begin with. You didn't come up with the genre. You didn't come up with the style. So when I'm seeing that, if someone were to make if J.J. Abrams were instead to not mimic and love Spielberg, but were to kind of make a commentary on the representations of Spielberg's tendencies, I wouldn't find them as gripping as one J.J. Abrams is representing Spielberg.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I mean, I wouldn't say that this is in any way superior to Hitchcock because it's
okay. That's how I was interpreting it.
No.
I was disagreeing with that take for that reason.
No. I don't think it's superior in any way. I mean, if there's any problem with De Palma in general, is that it feels like most of it is derivative, including Blow Up to me. I mean, that's why Blow Out. Sorry, I've done that 5 times. Is that they all feel like movies that I have trouble even imagining without Hitchcock. Right? They all feel derivative to me. So the thing for me
is Blowout feels like a tapestry woven in honor of Hitchcock, where he's tearing it down and reconstructing it eloquently with these Italian filmmakers' visions in mind. So it's kind of a conglomeration of beauty, whereas this feels like just a cheap ride. It just was very cheap.
Never would have guessed this.
I like the idea of a lot of what is represented here, but I didn't find Michael Caine as the psychologist interesting in any way. For some reason, it was telegraphed to me that he was going to be the villain because of the way that he was fascinated with femininity and wouldn't talk about his wife.
Yeah,
I just kind of got the idea that he was the one experiencing this gender dysmorphia. And that we only ever heard Bobby on the voicemail and never saw her. It didn't work for me. It fell apart kind of from the start.
Yeah.
I was most intrigued by the relationship of, at this point in time, I think it was still Brian De Palma's wife, who I don't recall the name of. She was also in Blowout, is the one that gets strangled and murdered at the end during the fireworks display, and the young boy. That's what was most interesting. And I was actually thinking about how that and Spielberg might have some similarities. That the young nerdy boy experiencing cinema history, kind of.
Yeah.
And maybe how that vision comes across in something like Spielberg's Lincoln. You know, how it is very much this nerdy boy's interpretation of heroicism.
Yeah. With that character in mind, I mean, I do think there's sort of a continuation of De Palma's interest in sort of like the mechanics of filmmaking, right? Like John Travolta's, sort of recreating this scene in the form of a movie, as does this kid, right? What does he do? He's tinkering, he's engineering, and he puts together this little camera on the back of a bicycle.
It's very clear what De Palma likes. And it's very clear why him and George and Scorsese and Coppola were all friends.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And Schrader.
Yeah.
Gotta include Schrader in the conversation.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, to me, there is a satisfaction I get from Blowout in these sincere homages to Hitchcock, but I also think that there is value in sort of a demythologizing of certain Hitchcock conventions that happens in Dressed to Kill.
And I might be biased against that because I might have Hitchcock in such reverence that I don't like demythologizing it.
Yeah.
Maybe once I finish watching every single one of his movies, I'll be at that point.
Yeah.
But I don't want them torn down while I'm still experiencing them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I don't have a lot else to say. We split a little bit, but...
I think I understand where you're coming from, and I respect it. Does where I'm coming from make much sense?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I can't argue at all.
What do you think about his fascination with nude blondes in the shower?
I mean, to me, that's in line with the with Hitchcock in mind, right?
No,
I mean,
it is, but he's putting a twist on it where they're experiencing their sexuality within the shower.
Yeah.
Hitchcock never depicted them nude.
Yeah.
He's depicting them nude, and he's showing specifically his wife basically in a position where she's masturbating with the shower head.
Yeah. I am totally guessing here, but I am curious if Hitchcock would have depicted the nudity had he could have. Like, had censorship not been a problem. I don't know when, the production code kind of fell apart, but like...
I don't think he would have depicted it like that, though.
I agree. Absolutely. And I do think that is, like, it's not sincere, the way in which De Palma, for me, depicts that scene. It is absurd.
I don't think it's Hitchcockian sincere, but I do question whether or not it's De Palma's version of sincerity.
Say more. Sorry, you lost me a little bit there.
I question whether or not he sincerely wants to depict women rubbing their breasts with soap for 2 minutes in a Hollywood film because that's what he desires.
You think he has like something else in mind, or you think he's doing it just because he likes it?
I think, like you said about Hitchcock, he's doing it just because he likes it.
Gotcha. That is fair. I mean, to me, it's too absurd not to call attention to it, and it thus distances me from it a little bit. So it would be, I think, sort of ignorant to say that, there isn't some kind of pleasure that De Palma thinks we can find in it, but he's sort of simultaneously aware of its sort of ridiculousness and...
yes, I do think he's aware of its ridiculousness, but also that it is sexy. But I think that, he's best known for his first scene twists.
Yeah.
And then what else?
I would say a lot. I mean, here we get the gear shift mid-movie. I mean, I guess, to me, that's startling. To me, we get a lot of flourishes, right? We get the split screens, we get the split diopters.
So, because of the documentary De Palma, I was aware that his wife was a main character in this film. Yeah. So I knew that something was missing. So that gear shift didn't work on me, I guess, that way. What else? Sorry, continue.
I mean, maybe it's not so much about like what is going to happen, but it's like how we get there, right? To me, that's how a lot of predictable movies still work. Is that the style is that the style justifies us watching and our pleasure from it. His wife's character getting on the train and the murderous blonde in the background of the shot stepping onto the train. We know where all this is going, but it's how it's all put together and constructed that's still suspenseful. How about
the four men chasing her, saying they want to rape her, essentially?
Definitely a weak point for me.
Yeah, kind of took me out of it. Her encounter with the cop. I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree.
It just all the plot seemed to work against itself on purpose. It all seemed overly mechanized. And really the second most gripping shot that I found was when when Michael Caine chokes out the nurse at the end.
Oh, at the very end, yeah. Or almost the very end, yeah.
And then that scene and then her waking up. I knew that it wasn't real, but I did find that entire encounter of her in the shower seemingly masturbating and then seeing the white nurse shoes on the ground and her careful planning and then getting her neck slit and waking up. I did find that the imagery evoking.
Yeah.
So I do think he's a great visual storyteller. I just think that that's one where maybe he was too focused on his vision and not on entertainment, and it seems to have worked for you in a way that it just didn't work for me.
Makes sense.
Well, shall we navigate to room 104?
We should.
Tonight is for us. Let's travel back in time. 56 years.
Hey!
You're scaring me.
This isn't a game.
This is the moment you enter the unknown.
And we're going to talk about the Duplass brothers anthology series Room 104 on HBO. Episodes 11 and 12 from season 1.
That's right. These are the only 2 episodes of this season that I have seen. You've seen the entirety of it now, correct?
No, I'm missing episode 5 through 10.
All right. Skipped a little bit.
Yeah. I was really enjoying it. I just didn't have the energy or the want to keep up with it. With a lot of TV shows, I do like to wait till they're all out, and that's what I was intending to do with this.
Yeah.
And then the opportunity to just kind of throw in an anthology that maybe we wouldn't normally see cropped up. So I said, why not do this? And I'll get around to finishing those episodes probably right before they begin season 2.
Yeah. So just to kind of baseline, you like the other ones? The rest of the anthology?
Yeah, I
cool?
really like this low budget ability to let creatives tell a story wholly unique and wholly encapsulated in kind of 22 to 28 minutes.
Yeah, very tight.
I think it's a wonderful format, and I think it's really, really important that something like this exists.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think it was the first of the 2 episodes, so episode 11, that was directed by Megan Griffiths, right?
Yep.
Seattle filmmaker. She's from around here.
I did not know.
Yeah, I don't know if she's still based here, but I always hear her talked about in the same vein as Lynn Shelton. She's another Northwest filmmaker, so that was cool.
But
I was excited to see her name.
It's pretty fucking great.
Yeah,
that's good company to keep. Do you know what else she's made by chance, or?
She's made another movie called Eden, which was about sex trafficking.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen that one either. She had one that was released this year that played at SIFF. I don't know if it's gotten distribution or not, but I can't remember the name of it. So she's still very much
is that maybe The Night
busy.
Stalker?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that was actually a 2016 release, so it's been looking for distribution for some time.
Maybe it just happened to get
that was its initial release.
SIFF.
So it's available on Amazon Prime and Vudu.
Got it. Cool.
Which, it looks like Vudu's $4.99, so go there instead of Amazon Prime for the $14.99.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always go with price. But yeah, she's advertised here as a Seattle filmmaker. She's got a YouTube video. That's kind of the first thing that pops up.
Yeah, it's cool. Representing the Northwest. Love it.
Out of Ohio University, it appears. Oh, she has a film from 2018 called Sadie.
Oh, yeah, I remember that name too.
85% on Rotten Tomatoes, 2 out of 5 from IndieWire, meaning David Ehrlich probably hated it. Tony Hale's in it. Yeah, Melanie Linsky.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I love me some Melanie Linsky. So, yeah, let's see if we can find a way to squeeze this into indie but overlooked by the end of the year.
Totally.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and screenshot this, and we can try to find a way to fit it in.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have a Wounded Soldiers episode.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to start with hers? Chronologically, anyways?
Yeah. So this is The Fight. It's written by Mark Duplass, who is on the record as loving writing his screenplays for Room 104 basically more than he loves writing anything else. This is one of my favorite production companies. I don't particularly think that any of their films are the best in any given year, but I do love the originality and the ability that they give to original voices.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite film that's come out of the Duplass brothers company is called Blue Jay.
Oh, yeah.
It's Sarah Paulson, Mark Duplass film. It's very intimate. I think it might be black and white.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to know.
Yeah.
But it's just really intimate, really lovely, very empathetic, very emotionally appealing, really quaint, and I think that describes Room 104. It's really tight, really emotional, and what you see is what you get. You won't get anything after the episode. You won't get anything before the episode. They all take place in a room, number 104, and it's all kept to itself. This is called The Fight. It is about kind of the fighter's spirit, the realism of what it's like to attempt to live while fighting, as far as paycheck to paycheck, and how hard it is to change the system as a fighter. Even when you know you want to change it, you can't really adapt your behavior.
Yeah.
And it speaks a really eloquent, really beautiful voice to that. And I was very surprised that Mark was able to depict that in a screenplay, I guess. I never got the hint that he was in on fighting stuff in any way.
Yeah.
Nuances, I suppose, would be the correct word there.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like in a 22-minute episode, for characters to have to show kind of a range of intensity of emotion, that's hard to get viewers to really be willing to sort of move with you emotionally that fast. I actually thought both of these actresses were really strong. They get intense very quickly. Right off the bat, we're on a phone call that one of the fighters is having with her manager. She's angry. She's upset. You know, when you have this little time, you just have to get your audience willing to buy in very quickly, and it did that. I think it was pretty tight.
What did you think about the conversation on fighting compensation that was being had?
I thought it was interesting, and their sort of stubborn mentalities was
so it doesn't matter
compelling.
who wins, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to keep fighting after this, right? It doesn't matter who wins.
Mm-hmm. If I had some beef with it, it was maybe some of the voiceover narration. I didn't know that it was necessary. I thought it was kind of telling me what I was already feeling. But I did like both of these actresses, and a good portion of this 20 minutes is just them fighting. I think it felt like mostly handheld camera work that was pretty quick and sharp, and kept me oriented on them.
The kind of swirl and the flip.
Yeah.
There were certain obvious bits of acting that were happening during these fights, where the chokes are clearly too loose, or you don't hold someone by the head there. Certain things with technique were very obviously wrong, but in something so wholly original and self-confined, I think it really did work. And even the ending worked, where there's the hole in the wall and the guy that's cleaning up the room.
Yeah.
Here's people next door watching the fight, as one of the girls gets their arm snapped in half, and he's invited over to watch this fight because it's an amazing fight.
Yeah.
It just was 100% believable the entire time.
Yeah.
Even when it wasn't believable for obvious reasons that maybe you need to know what a fighting style looks like, or how to correctly perform a choke, or why would she have her in a perfect choke hold and then let her up? There's some very questionable things happening. But it was fun and original.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like the environment was very conducive to the action. Kind of the combination of their sweat and their blood with sort of the soiled carpet that just looks gross. Like, that all kind of just melded together nicely. I'm like, I don't know if that carpet is soiled from them or something else, but it looks bad, and I wish they weren't rolling around on it.
or why did they do this to the walls? Especially when she accidentally kicks a hole in the wall, just careless, just with her toes. All of a sudden, there's a giant hole in the wall. I'm like, how?
Yeah.
I think that this might have been staged a little bit, guys.
Yeah. Well, I just really wanted them to both take a good shower. Yeah. Very bad.
So for this episode, I'm kind of a 3.5. I think you said you were more of a 1, 2.
I think I have come back on that a little bit. I don't watch anywhere near as many shorts as you do. So I just need to, kind of figure out how to find my feeling in shorts. So I actually think I would give this a 3.5, or a 3. It's just that, 22 minutes, I'm used to feeling a lot in a hour and a half long narrative. I have to kind of adjust and compensate for time.
Do you want to commit to a score?
I'll do 3.5. Yeah,
3.5?
I'm fine with that.
All right. So let's get to My Love, which is a beautiful, sad, startling, original depiction of sexuality, sensuality, love, forgiveness, and having a partner while you age.
Yeah.
It's also written by Mark Duplass, and this one is directed by Marta Cunningham. Do you have any quaint, fun commentary on the director here?
No, I do not. I do not know anything about her, so I got nothing. You?
I know everything about her. She's an American film director who has blonde hair and was married to James Frayne in 2004. She has received a nomination from the NAACP.
This changes everything.
I am a genius. I can Google. Hey. Oh, she's done some Transparent episodes, it appears. She did an episode of Grownish, which is the sequel to Blackish, or a sequential series to Blackish. Just a lot of television work, it looks like. The Bold Type, I've never heard of that. How to Get Away with Murder. She did one on Pretty Little Liars. Star Trek Discovery, that's pretty good. Cool. The Good Fight, also kind of big. And then she has one film that she directed back in 2013. It's a documentary called Valentine Road.
Huh.
Seems to have gotten some pretty good reception. It's averaging a 7.1 out of 1,200 reviews on IMDb here.
Cool.
So,
she's got a filmography.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most directors do.
Yes. I like this. I really, really like Philip Baker Hall. The movie that always comes to mind when I think of him is Hard 8, PTA's first movie.
What's it called?
Hard 8. Never seen that one?
Never heard of it.
Yeah. As well as one of his first shorts that Philip Baker Hall has a big role in. I always find him really compelling. He's one of those guys that just seems to have become more physically interesting as he's aged.
For me, he's very much a placid surface that holds in retains a lot of energy and a lot of emotion.
It just feels
like what people want out of Harry Dean Stanton is what I get from him.
Ooh, yeah. There seems to be a lot going on beneath the surface, and it comes out in these really smooth kind of waves of emotion as he delivers his dialogue. I thought it was a very sweet, sad little story.
Bittersweet, right?
Yeah.
Especially that when she dies and he's calling her my love, and kind of begins the self-narration process where he calls his daughter to figure out the name of the kid that was just born that he doesn't know the name of because he doesn't have it written down in his photo book. And then he starts kind of explaining himself and his life choices with his wife, and that he knows that she had an affair, and the man, Ed, that she was having the affair with, came to confront him, and that was the most scared that he'd ever been in his life, and he thought that his life was over.
Yeah.
And when he went home for dinner, the conversation they had about not going to dinner with their friends, Ed and Ed's wife, and going to see a movie instead, and him knowing that meant that she chose to keep him, and how much that meant to him, was just really lovely and touching. I have a lot of problems with the cheating thing,
that's fair.
But for some reason, the way it was presented, much like Togetherness, another series by them, it just works for me. It's quaint, it's forgiving, it's honest, it's brutal, and it's lovely.
Yeah.
Which is really weird to say about something that has adultery.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something about watching a show like this and sort of the realization about how infrequently you're just seeing really great movies with actors and actresses above a certain age. And it just feels like you suddenly realize that there's been this sort of gap in the experiences that you've watched in movies.
That's why I'm gonna go out of my way to see The Wife.
Yeah. Could absolutely fill that void. Just that alone, to see two people, an actor and an actress, sort of embracing what makes that period of your life interesting and worth there being stories about. It's super moving.
Yeah, because if it's worth having a story about a younger point in time, then we do need to see how those coalesce, come together, the regrets, and things of that nature. And we need to see that while we're still young enough to incorporate that into our behaviors, so that we have what one would call an adaptive choice. We could choose. We could have knowledge and choose to adapt. And I'd like to see more stories in this frame set. And there are some, there's more middle-aged films. I think that something that we really would have never seen before, On Body and Soul.
Oh yeah, I still haven't caught up with that one yet.
From last year is just such a beautiful original piece of work that we're really lucky to get. But I don't want to keep seeing Morgan Freeman and Michael Caine doing heist films. I want to see Michael Caine not as a gender dysmorphia murderer.
Yeah.
But as a man who regrets some of his life's choices and is attempting to cope with them.
Yeah.
I would like to hear more of those stories.
Yeah, the old people doing funny young things, that seems to be getting very trite very fast.
Yes.
I'm not interested in those stories at the moment.
I do understand that there does need to be fun, approachable entertainment for people of that age with stars that they love, but I think that younger people also need to be given stories that show the costs of young choices and how those play into later life, so that you can have those adaptive changes.
Yeah. To me, like, if it's funny to think about 8th grade and Bo Burnham, thinking about the experience of a young girl, and the contrast or the opposite being like, who's the director of Krisha and We Own the Night? Or not We Own the Night. Trey Edward Schultz, with Krisha, right? Telling the story of his family.
It Comes at Night.
And It Comes at Night, exactly. Not We Own the Night. Also a great movie. Him telling the story about an older woman in his life, rather than a younger woman, like in 8th grade.
That's his aunt, actually.
Yeah, exactly. And those were a bunch of members of his real family. It proves that directors can put themselves in the shoes of other people, and it still is tremendously affecting and true.
Yes,
and
directors
not
that are
noticed
by Terrence Malick as being good at being directors have that ability.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of those there are.
I know.
I know that he's one of them, and the only one that I'm aware of.
I'll take it. Better than nothing.
It is.
Just keep looking for him.
What did you think about that sex scene where he'd already taken the Viagra and he kind of plays dead on top of her?
I thought it was funny.
I thought it was cute and just is kind of sweet.
Yeah. It had me laughing a little bit. One thing that you don't get that often when you see movies with young sex depicted on screen is that it always looks very smooth, when in reality, like, sex for the first time is always terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of the end of life way, where it's kind of clumsy, and not super smooth, but it's still
she's like,
emotional.
Maybe I need some lube too. He's like, no, it's on me, it's enough.
Yeah,
I'm just worried about me.
I thought it was funny, and sweet as well.
Yeah,
definitely not laughing at them. They're laughing at themselves,
them,
and it's
when he
funny.
plays dead. I thought it was so funny and sweet. And
did you think she was maybe playing dead?
I did. I think that was on purpose. And I thought that was a really good choice.
Yeah.
I think Mark's really good at these little screenplays.
Yeah.
And I hope that we get a couple more seasons of them.
Yeah.
I think that I'm kind of a 3.5 on this one. Where are you at?
I think I'm probably about the same. 3.5.
3.5?
Yeah. To me, there is something kind of nice about anthologies, unlike miniseries or just regular TV, that's all about forward momentum and the need to kind of constantly be selling you to keep you involved. Whereas, an anthology like this does feel more like bite-sized cinema.
Especially kind of this I think the Duplass brothers, their production company, very much does feel like bite-sized cinema.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen their series that they had 2 seasons of, Togetherness?
Never saw that.
That might be a fun thing for us to attempt to incorporate at some way far in the future point in time.
Yeah.
Really beautiful, touching slice of life bits that I think you would probably gravitate towards pretty hard.
Yeah. One of my favorites of theirs was The One I Love with I'm forgetting the actress's name, but Mark Duplass and Elizabeth, something from The Handmaid's Tale and Mad Men.
Yes, Elizabeth Moss.
Yes.
The Scientologist herself.
Yeah. That little tight sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
That was fun. I like that one pretty well.
Yeah. I don't know. It's been a while since I saw that. I might need to revisit that one.
Yeah.
That might... Cool. We might need to try to do a Duplass thing when things slow down, maybe next spring.
Kind of a low-budget cinema thing.
Yeah. Maybe toss in
Creep
and Creep 2.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Creep 2 yet, so that'd be fun.
Me neither.
Should we get to consensus rankings?
Oh, you want to run through them? Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Predator. 4.5 from each of us, 4.5 consensus. The Predator. 1 from me, 2 from you, 1.5 consensus. Sex, Lies, and Videotape. 5, 5, and a perfect 5.
Whoa.
First time in Drinking the Movie's history. A Simple Favor, I gave it a 4, you gave it a 4, total of 4. Dressed to Kill, I gave it a 3, you gave it a 4, 3.5. The Fight, 3.5. My Love, 3.5. These are both 2 episodes, the last 2 episodes from season 1 of Room 104.
Love it.
So what's on tap next week, Michael?
On tap next week, we have Let the Corpses Tan, What Keeps You Alive, Mandy, the much anticipated Nicolas Cage movie, The Strange Colors of Your Body's Tears, which is a feature from the director, Let the Corpses Tan, Beyond the Black Rainbow, the first feature from the director of Mandy, as well as just 1 episode from American Horror Story, The End.
And that's the name of it, American Horror Story, The End. This is episode 1 of the most recent series, and I'm coming into it blind. Are you also coming into it blind?
I am.
Great. So we'll kind of be an original voice. So instead of going for a, 10 years back or more classics next week, we're kind of going to go with more of a modern classics or things that are playing into this new release of Mandy. Let the Corpses Tan, that filmmaker's previous film.
Yeah, kind of looking at these directors' previous efforts. They all seem to kind of fit into, sort of a gritty genre, dream-like, phantasmagoria kind of thing.
I do love me some phantasmagoria.
I just love that word.
Is there a better one?
I'm going to try to say that word as many times as possible next week.
It's like if Fantasia was gory.
Great word. 5 stars.
10 out of 10. Would watch again. All right. Well, I think that's it from Taylor and
Michael.
This has been Drinking the Movies. Please come back next week where we will be talking about All Hallows Eve films and topics. And until then, drink your 6-packs.
See you next week.
Run! Go! Get to the chopper!
We have to go.
I'm coming with you.
Right on time.